भगवती तव तीरे नीरमात्रशनोऽहं भगवती तव तीरे नीरमात्रशनोऽहं विगतविषयतृष्णा कृष्णमाराधयामि विगतविषयतृष्णा कृष्णमाराधयामि सकलकलुषभङ्गे स्वर्गसोपानसङ्गे सकलकलुषभङ्गे स्वर्गसोपानसङ्गे तरलतरतरङ्गे देवी गङ्गे प्रसीद 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 नमामि गङ्गे 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 स्वर्ग की परछाइयाँ दिखती तेरे आंचल तले माँ तेरी हर बूंद में बहती हुई ममता मिले तू हथेली तन पे फेरे मन को भी निर्मल करे जिस तरह को तू छुए जीवन से उसको सींच दे लेके आया हर कोई बस पाप तुझको सौंपने फिर भी तू बहती चले सबको लगा करके गले स्वाद अमृत का तुझे ही चूम कर जाना प्रसीद 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 नमामि गङ्गे 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 पानी जो तेरा खारा तेरे आंसू की धारा कैसे मैं देखूं संतान हो माना है तुझे माँ ये धर्म है मेरा मैं तुझे तेरा वो सम्मान दूं नमामि गङ्गे नमामि गङ्गे नमामि गङ्गे नमामि गङ्गे नमामि गङ्गे
Namaskar and welcome you all to Srishti Sambhrama 2020. This is a flagship festival that has been conducted for almost a decade by the Heritage Trust, a not-for-profit trust, along with the support of BNMIT. The whole idea of this was to celebrate the Earth Mother, as she is called by many of the indigenous cultures. And in India, we call her Bhumi Devi or Bhudevi. For us here in India, in the Indian ethos, and also in many of the ancient cultures, the entire creation is divinity. And somewhere down the line, things changed, but we are looking today to see if we can absorb the wisdom of the ancients in this session to see if today we can bring that knowledge forward and actually use it to improve the situation that we are in today and improve the quality of our lives. At this point, I'd like to share with you a small story that comes from the Bhagavata Puranam, where there was this king called Vena, and he was a terrible fellow. He went out into the forest without reason, hunted animals, cut down trees, even killed human beings, all just for his own sport. And finally, his own advisory board had to see that he was put to an end. And then came Prithu Maharaja. Prithu Maharaja was part avatar of Vishnu. And when Prithu came, he found that Mother Earth had not yielded food for his people. And he got very upset and he got into his chariot and took his bow and arrow and went out ready to punish Mother Earth for not feeding his children. Bhumi Devi manifested herself as a cow and started running. And at a point, she could run no more, and she stopped and she turned around and she asked him, "What is it you want?" And then he said, "I'm going to punish you because you have not yielded enough food for my children, and my children are suffering." And she said, "I will yield if you take care of me." And then she gave a whole long list of what he should do to take care of her if she had to yield. And one of the things she also said was, when it rains, store the water so I'm not parched in the summer months. So right then and there in the Bhagavatam itself, we've been given all the rules of how we should take care of Mother Earth. I thought I should share this with you because this is the wisdom of our ancients. And so today we just started with this beautiful song, Namami Gange. For us here, Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apa, Prithvi, everything is Ishvara. And so we had this beautiful song sung by the Trichur brothers. And I welcome all of you here. And we have a very wonderful panel here with us today. I will first introduce Sri Krishna Mohan because he's going to speak first. And then I will introduce the rest of you. So welcome to all of you. A short introduction. The Vidwan Sri Krishna Mohan and Sri Ram Kumar, better known as the Trichur brothers, are one of the leading classical musicians of South India. Son of the leading Mridangam Vidwan, Sri Trichur Mohan, they had their initial training from Madurai, Srimati Balamani Ishwar. They were trained further by Sri Tamarkadu Govindan Nambudri. It's a huge privilege for the brothers to be associated with the Namami Gange, a project revived by the Honorable Prime Minister to clean up the national river Ganga. Their composition, Namami Gange, is now the official theme song for this mammoth and historic movement. The brothers are also honored to have been invited to participate and present the song in the Dubai Stadium when Honorable Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi visited Dubai to address a gathering of more than 50,000 people. Before I request him to speak, I would like to say that for this journey that has been brought to you by the Center for Soft Power, we have a lot of collaborators who have been so kind and been so encouraging that we feel that, the next year we have to do this in, twice as big as we're doing it this year. We have the BNMIT, we have Heritage Trust, we have the ICCS, that is the International Council for Cultural Studies. And then we have the Artists for Wildlife Art, AWN. Then we have the Wildlife Trust of India. Then we have the Deputy High Commission, the Deputy British High Commission in Bangalore. And of course, Indic is there. And this whole program is brought to you in collaboration with all these people by the Center for Soft Power. Sri Krishna, I'd like you to tell us about the relation between music and Mother Nature and the wild. And we look forward to what you have to say. Thank you so much. You have to unmute yourself. We can't hear you. Can't hear you still. Maybe if you take off your headphones. And do it directly from your mic.
Sri Krishna ji, if you could see your microphone is on full volume.
Okay, is your microphone on full volume? You want to go out and come back again and see, connect on your phone or something and see if it works. Okay, meanwhile, I will introduce the chair of this evening, Professor Yashwant Pathak. He has completed his education, his MS and PhD in pharmaceutical technology from India and EMBA and MS conflict management from Sullivan University, US. He is an associate dean for faculty affairs at the newly launched College of Pharmacy, University of South Florida, Tampa. With extensive experience in academia and industry, he has over 150 publications, research papers, abstracts, chapters, and reviews, 7 books in nanotechnology and drug delivery systems, 6 in nutraceuticals, and several books in cultural studies. His areas of research include drug delivery systems, nanotechnology applications, and pharmacy. He has traveled extensively over 80 countries and actively involved in many pharmacy colleges in different countries. I hope you heard when I said that he has written several books on cultural studies. So that's why he is here. Not that the pharmacy is not important, but the cultural studies is what has brought him to this session. Yes, Sri Krishna, can we hear you now?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Thank God. Let me just try wearing this the headset, and it should work now because it seems to be some connection issue. Hold on. You can hear me now, right?
Yes.
Thank God. Okay. All right. So namaskaram to all of you. Big hello to the wonderful panelists. Before I start talking about Namami Gange, I would like to thank Vijay Lakshmi and team for inviting Ram and me. Ram unfortunately could not join today. So, we've been associated with your team for quite some time now, and it's always a pleasure to connect music with nature, because that is exactly how it is intended. And it's always nice to, in the past, while we perform for your dear Sambhrama, performing in all these lovely heritage sites and nature uh, affiliated venues have been wonderful. So, um, to quickly say talk about Namami Gange, we were inspired to do this by Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji while he spoke about the national river at the Madison Square, where he addressed the overseas community. And Indian classical music has always been very, very deeply connected with nature. By nature, I mean not only not only water and air, but also the wildlife. So, if we look at even the swaras, the basic swaras that is used in the Indian classical music, both Carnatic and Hindustani, there are basically 7 notes, and all these 7 notes are associated with either the sound of a particular form of nature or the sound of a particular form of like wildlife. So you know there is this wonderful song which I thought I'd share with all of you. This is come in the movie called His Highness Abdullah, and the song is composed by Kaidaparam Damodaran Nambudiri, and he talks about the connection of each note with nature. So I'm going to quickly sing this a few lines from the song. దేవసభాతలం రాగిలమాగువన్నాదమయుగమే స్వాగతం స్వాగతం సరిగమ పరిగమ పద గమ పద నిమ పద నిస మయూరనాదం స్వరమాయ్ విడரும் షడ్జమనాహదమంద్రం Mayuranadam Swaramai Vidarum. It's in Malayalam. So what this means is the Swara Shadjam, the basic note, the Shruti, the pitch in which any singer in this world sings, it's actually come from the peacock. Mayura means peacock. And I'm going to skip a lot of lines because I know I don't have much time here. ഋഷഭസ്വരങ്ങളായി പൗരുഷമേ ശിവവാഹനമേ നന്ദി. So Rishabha. So the next note, Rishabha, is actually associated with the the Vahana of Lord Shiva, which is Rishabha or the bull. So Rishabham is supposed to be a very masculine note, and it's supposed to have evolved from the Rishabha Vahana. Okay, and you can say that he goes on to describe the other swaras. Gandharam is supposed to give you santosham or happiness. Madhyamam is from this animal called Krauncham. I'm not exactly sure what it gets translated to in English. Panchamam is from the Kokila. So, and it's associated with the season called spring. Okay, and the note Devatam is associated with bringing about rainfall. So, Megharagangale Totunarunada Manjushamandram Devatam. So it says that with the Devatam you can invoke rains into our system, and so on and so forth. So this is a wonderful song that actually portrays how. Hello, am I audible? I'm not sure.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank God, because I just got a message saying my video was switched off.
Your video was switched off, but your audio was okay.
All right. Okay. So basically, sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni are the 7 swaras in Indian classical music, which we just kind of went about in a very brief manner. And this would form the crux of anything that you call music over the world, across the globe. And each of these notes, as I could briefly explain, is associated with some form of nature. And Indian classical music, especially, is also connected with divinity. It is, in fact, a part of Sama Vedas, one of the 4 Vedas. And there is a ragam called Amrita Varshini, for example. So, Sagama Pani Sani Pamaga Sani Sa. So I'm going to render this one line, and then I'll explain what this kriti or this composition is about. Anandabritagarshini Amritavarshini Haradi Pujite Shive Bhavani Sananda Hridaya Sadaye Nilaye Satya Suvrishtihe Tavetvam Santatam Chintaye Amriteshwari Salilam Varshaya 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 Anandabrita. So for those who don't follow Sanskrit, this song is composed by one of the trinities of Indian Carnatic music, which is Muthuswami Dikshitar. And the story goes that he was in this particular place, and they were actually suffering from a very, very severe drought. So then Dikshitar decides to sing in this ragam Amrita Varshini, which again is scientifically proven to invoke the blessings of the rain gods and bring about the clouds to shower the place where this song is rendered or this raga is rendered. And history goes on to say that while the Dikshidhar sang this kriti and prayed to the Almighty, the whole city was like, they had a heavy downpour, and he had to sing another kriti to make sure that the rains subside so that normal life can continue. So there's a very similar raga in Hindustani which is called Raga Megh. Uh, I just realized that I can go on and on about the connection that music has with nature. In fact, most of our compositions, in one way or the other, talks about either the river that's associated with that particular temple or city, or it talks about. In fact, one of the other very famous set of compositions is called the Panchabhuta Kshetra Kritis. The Panchabhutas are basically the five elements of nature, which is sky, water, air, fire, and earth. So these five compositions are about each of these particular elements, and each of these composition is a magnum opus in itself, and we can go on and on talking about this. So I'm really at a loss to continue, because if I start, this can go on for the next 20-30 minutes. So I would like to conclude my, uh, if I can call this a very brief summary about how Indian classical music especially is associated with nature.
Namaskar, and thank you so much,
Hey,
Sri Krishna, for joining us.
pleasure.
And I'm sure the session will go on beautifully with such a beautiful invocation that we had praying to our Mother Gange. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I now invite Professor Yashwant Pathak ji to come on and take this session on the wisdom of the ancients forward. Thank you, sir, and we hand it over to you now.
Thank you very much, Vijaya Lakshmi ji. It's such a great honor for me to be on this program, and I am 100% now convinced that I don't believe that I really deserve this to be called as chair. So let me be a simple participant and volunteer rather than calling me chair, because that is a dishonor to the enjoyed your explanation. I thought you should have gotten more time. So, this is a very interesting topic which this organization has taken it up. And, the whole world is looking at uh, what will be my future, what will be the future of our future generations. And this is where there is a very beautiful saying in Sanskrita, which most of the Indians are very much aware of it, but probably I am going to tell you a little different thing. It says that Mata Bhumi Putro Aham Prithvivyam. So every one of us, our mother is Mother Earth, and we are the children of the Mother Earth. But it will be surprised to know that when it comes to the Native American, they have a saying which says that Mita Kwe Oyasin, which means we are all relations, and because we are children of the Mother Earth. And this is where the connection between the Mother Earth and every individual on Earth is realized by most of the ancient traditions around the world. And if you look at the African traditions or pagan traditions in Europe, or Australian Aboriginal, the Maoris in New Zealand, all of them had such a great respect for Mother Earth. So it has been expressed in terms of many different proverbs and many different uh, songs and traditional ceremonies and whatnot. So this is something which all of us cherish, the being the children of the Mother Earth, and that was experienced by most of the ancient traditions around the world. When I'm saying ancient traditions, I'm referring to the traditions which are existing in the world for more than 2000 years. And then if you see now in the United States, we have another very interesting group. They are known as Haudenosaunee. Probably my sister who has come from Ontario, Canada, she must be aware of that. That Haudenosaunee is the people of big house, because they think that every child of the Mother Earth has a place in this big house. And that is where the connection of human being to the Mother Earth is expressed by all the ancient traditions around the world. It is one of the unique relationship which they experienced over the period of thousands of years. And they thought that unless the children of the Mother Earth take care of the Mother Earth, it will be impossible for the Mother Earth to survive. And this is where the challenge is coming, and there is a guidance which we can really seek from all these ancient traditions around the world. And recently, there is a very famous person in United States. She represents the Native Americans. She's very young. She is a Stanford graduate, Laila Johnson, and she made a very beautiful comment regarding the fires which are happening in California. She said that thousands of years the Native Americans survived without these fires, and now suddenly why the fires are coming? Because the children of the Mother Earth are not taking care of the Mother Earth properly. And that's where the ancient wisdom, the wisdom of the elders of the uh, Native Americans, Africans, everywhere, they have been connected with nature right from their childhood, and they are honoring the nature in and out with so many ceremonies. And I think this is a great, very timely program which is being organized. And I'm so happy to have such a great panel for discussing this celebration of the Mother Earth, and they all belong to all different scenarios. So even though there is a list here, I'm going to start with my sister who is sitting in Guatemala, and you have her online here, Elizabeth Araujo. So Elizabeth has been working with these issues all her life, more or less. She has been concentrating, she has been traveling. She's like a wandering monk. If we say in Indian perspective, Elizabeth is nothing but a wandering monk. And she travels from Japan to America to different countries. She attends most of the uh, congregations of ancient tradition people, and then she delivers a message. That message is so strong. She delivers the Mayan message to the world, and Mayan culture, Mayan traditions are so close to our Hindu traditions that I always keep on telling her. When I took her to, she went to Arunachal Pradesh, and nobody even recognized that she's from Guatemala. Everybody thought that she's from Arunachal Pradesh. And that is how Elizabeth has been doing fantastic work in, she's an Elizabeth elder mother they call it, and she has been traveling, wandering monk, and I'm so honored to have Elizabeth Araujo on this. And I'm sorry for the uh, I'm reshuffling this schedule timing, but I will introduce them and then we'll follow the timing. So we have another very wonderful person, and she is Becky Big Cano, and she is from Ontario, Canada. You know, Canada has a very strong presence of Native American activities in Canada, and she is one of the leaders of her group there. And these Native Americans have been so close, and that is where the Mitakoe Oyasin comes, that is where the Haudenosaunee comes, and their philosophy is absolutely so important for us to imbibe, inculcate in our day-to-day life, because the Native Americans have done phenomenal work and thought processes they have developed. And there are so many people, and I would like to share one small thing about Native Americans, and then most of the Indian participants will love this. One of the Native American elders says that if you want to talk to God, it's very easy. Go to a secluded place and meditate. And now our Trichur brother will love this, because the Native American says that if you understand the music of the breeze moving through the woods, if you understand the language of the birds, they are talking with each other, And that is the time when you can talk to the God. But the key to talk to the God is to keep yourself mum. The moment you start talking, God stops talking. So obviously, the Native Americans have realized that if you want to talk to God, you keep mum. The more you talk, the more God goes away from you. And obviously, this is a beautiful thing, and they are expressing that in terms of music, which we started with Namami Gange. So if you understand the music of the wind or breeze which is going through the woods, that's where you start talking to the God. And this is the philosophy of Native America. This is the ancient wisdom. So I really we are honored to have our sister Becky Beek from Ontario on this panel. I have a very distinguished personality on this panel, Dr. Gauri Mahulikar, and she is representing the Chinmaya Vidyapitam. Dr. Gauri Mahulikar, she is a professor. She has supervised, I don't know how many, 19 or 20 PhDs. She has got several honors. If I want to repeat all those honors, that will complete probably the whole time. But she is one of the most prominent personality in uh, Indian academic scenario, especially in the scenario of Sanskrit. And I am seeing that the Sanskrit language is reviving, and a day will come that every Indian will speak Sanskritam. And I am sure Gauri Maulikar will be loving that dream that we will all be speaking Sanskritam, because Sanskritam is the mother of all the ancient traditions and all the wisdom there. I have my friend who is here on line. His name is Mr. Basil Ugorji. I don't know whether he has joined here or not yet, but Basil comes from Nigeria. He migrated to United States and he started he has a master's degree and he is doing his PhD in conflict management. But he has specialized uh, a great area which is so important presently. And you all in India watch the American scenario. I always tell that Indians know more about America than I am sitting in America, and that's where the lot of uh, collisions are happening in the American society. You must have heard about the Floyd. There are a lot of killings happening, and this is where the role of Basil comes into the picture. Basil is working on ethno-religious mediation, and all these ethnic cultures, all these I am that is not a correct word to express these cultures. These are ancient cultures, they are not ethnic cultures. So ancient cultures have their own ways of life. They are all dharmic traditions. They are all considered to be dharmic traditions, and that's why these ancient cultures have their own way of behavior, own way of life, own way of thinking. And that's why when you want to mediate, you need to utilize this ethno-religious mediation, and this is what Basil is doing. He's doing a phenomenal work in United States. He's based in New York, and I hope he has joined here. And then I have two more wonderful people who are on our panel. Dr. Abha Pulu, he is a professor in Northeast India. I was so impressed when Professor Gauri Maulikar said that she has visited Northeast India. Very few Indians go there. And Northeast India is one of the, you know, soul of diversity you can experience in Northeast India. Thousands of languages, wonderful dresses, colorful dresses. Diversity is soul of humanity. If you go to Northeast India, you will see that this is what we would like to create in this world. The Mother Earth represents diversity of the society, diversity of the culture, diversity of everything, because it is the soul of humanity. And that's where Dr. Abha Pulu represents one of the very ancient culture from the Northeast India, and he is a professor there. He is going to talk about the Northeast cultures. And then I have my very good friend Vijay Swami. Vijay Swami has dedicated all his life for Northeast. He originally belongs to Maharashtra, but all his life he spent in Arunachal Pradesh doing social work, volunteering. All his 24 by 7 for Northeast region. He is more of a Northeast guy than a Maharashtrian, and he is now executive director of one of the very interesting institution known as Research Institute for World Ancient Traditions and Cultural Heritage, ReWatch. They have a beautiful museum. Everybody was thinking that in a small village like Jinjili, if you establish a museum, who will go there? And Vijay Swami's contribution, more than 10,000 people have participated in that museum activities in last 1 year. It is incredible, unbelievable. And Vijay Swami, we are very honored to have you here. I think as per the program now, I hope I have covered all the introductions, and if Vijaya Lakshmi ji allows me, then I will. Can I introduce? Can I invite Dr. Abba Pulu to start his presentations? Are we on time?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Yeah, my request to all the speakers is that please restrict your talk to 10 minutes so that we have a very big audience here now, and 85 people are there. I can see them, and kindly leave some time for them to ask you questions, because your wisdom has to be shared with these people. So your presentation about your thought processes in less than 10 minutes will help us to have more interactions. Terima kasih. I am wearing a nice Indonesian batik because I was told that I must wear a colorful dresses. So I am wearing an Indonesian batik, and here is Dr. Abba Pulu for us. Dr. Abba Pulu, are you there?
Yes, sir. I'm there, sir.
Please go ahead. I hope I have introduced you properly.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. So
No,
I'd
we
like
don't
to
see
share
your
screen
video.
first. Yes. I'll just switch off the video. Then is it visible? Hello, ma'am. Is it
Yes,
visible?
sir, we can see it. Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah. Okay. So at first, namaskaram to all the panelists,
If you,
and
yeah.
then to all the attendees as well. So kindly, might be some say because of this poor network, there might be some disturbance, but kindly bear with that. So since I don't have much time, so I'll start with my say talk or say presentation. So today, basically, I'll be talking about the tribal culture and conservation. So a particular tribe, which is Idumishmi tribe, from which I belong from that particular region. I'm talking about the particular topic. So if you talk about tribal life, conservation, there are studies have come up with say conclusion or say the findings that tribal people have a crucial role to play in global conservation. They are better taking care of their environment than anyone else. So you'll find a number of say examples all over the world. So I have just quoted three examples from Tanzania. From I'm not going to detail because there's shortest of time. So from Tanzania, and then from USA and Australia, exactly they have come out with the say findings that these tribal people, they are more connected and they can conserve our mother earth, or say our nature, much better than anyone else. So on a similar line, I'll be talking about this tribal life or the tribal culture of our people, our community, which is Idumishmi community, and from Arunachal Pradesh, India. Just to show you, this is India and then Arunachal Pradesh, and this is the particular place from where we belong, this Diwang Valley and Lower Diwang Valley. This is the place where Idumishmi people inhabit.
Sir, we are not able to hear you. Dr. Abba?
Hello.
Sir, we are
I
not
think
able to
there's
see
a
you or hear
network
you.
problem. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Not very clearly, but we can hear
Actually,
you.
the problem, sorry, this problem with this network connectivity, internet connectivity.
So
So
if
anyway, shall I continue?
you just do one thing, you just email that presentation and we'll share screen so it's easier then.
I have emailed the presentation already.
So then we will
Yes,
share the
yes, I
screen.
have.
You don't
I
share the
have
screen,
sent.
sir. Kotiji, can you share the
Okay,
screen,
okay.
please? Koti, can you share the screen?
Yeah, one moment, ma'am.
Yeah. Not this one. Koti, not this.
Yeah, one moment.
Not this one.
Not this one.
Session 1 ఒకటే కదా ఒకసారి
For session 1, we have received only one PPT.
Vasha?
Miss Dr. Abba, can you please send your PPT again because we haven't received it to our email ID. Sorry, I just checked the email because we haven't received it. If you could
So
just
by
send
the
it
time he sends it, can we have somebody else speak, sir?
Yeah, that will be a great idea. Can we ask Sri Vijay Swami to go ahead and in the meantime set up the thing with Dr. Abba Pulu? Vijayji, are you there? Abba, is it okay to request Vijay Swami to move?
No, no problem. No problem. No problem. Sir.
Yeah.
No problem.
You exactly talk like Dr. Ishta Pulu. Vijayji, go ahead, please.
Sir. Thank you.
And in the meantime, we'll connect the Dr. Pulu presentation. Unmute yourself, please.
We have network this problem actually all over, no? So we don't know whether how this in rowing also it will go, how it will go, but I will start getting this. At very outset, really, I thank you for Isha Lakshmiji to invite me to the webinar. And very important wisdom of the ancients have been for this webinar. And when wisdom of the ancient simply cannot be said with the ethnic community.
Vijayji?
Yes, sir. I think the connections in Arunachal seem to not be very good.
Yeah, I am aware of it. They are not in Bangalore anyway.
Yeah, so I think we will move to the next person, whoever has a connection, and then come back to them.
Sounds good. We'll do that. Then, Elizabeth, how are you? Would you like to go ahead?
You have to
Yeah.
unmute yourself.
Yes, please unmute yourself and then start.
You have to unmute yourself.
Unmute yourself. Yeah. Okay, she got it.
Okay, I'm learning. You see all these books here? I have only read 2 in my whole life. I'm not any academic person. Thank you for the introduction you gave of me. And all I can talk about is the things that I have learned orally from my elders. So good morning to you all, distinguished elders, brothers and sisters, and everyone who is listening and sharing this moment. Today is the day of Ik in our sacred calendar. And Ik is the day of the air, the one of the elements that sustain our life. And through the elements, we all are connected. And Ik is a day of that is very present in every moment of our life, from the moment we are born until the time to when we leave this body. We can see the presence of the air when we see the leaves on the trees dancing with the wind, or the clouds moving. And the air comes and cleans us too. It's one of the elements that we can use to cleanse, or we can ask in our prayers. We can meditate to the wind to remove any contagious illnesses that may come through the air. You know, like to the virus, we can speak to the virus and say, please, go on the side. Don't hurt us. So this is the day of the day of today. As customary, our life moves around the calendars. And in Guatemala, there are two worlds, the Western world and the indigenous world, and they go parallel. Most of the indigenous people, they live in the countryside, in the rural areas, and they are very connected to the land because they live out of agriculture. In our ceremonies, we are based the ceremonies in the calendar. We have days for praying for life, for health, other days for gratitude, and so on, for wisdom, and so on. There are 20 days in our calendar, and the calendar is within us because it came out of we counted 10 fingers connected to 10 cosmic energies, and we have 10 toes connected to the telluric energies. So that makes 20, and this is when we say our hands and our feet, it's one person, one body. In Maya, we say Winak is one body, and that is the name of the month. And that's why the month has 20 days also, because every finger is connected to all those energies, and our whole life and the universe is within. We have the calendar is the one that guides us in our daily life, and it shows us respect for one another, respect for nature, respect for the creator, respect to the animals, respect for everything. And it brings, if we are in tune with it, we will find peace and harmony within ourselves. We have days dedicated to the fire, for instance, the fire is very central to the ceremonies, very central to the spirituality. But there is another internal fire, and it's in the form of love. The elders say when that fire is gone, then we have lost the tradition. They are day for the water, and the water is, it unifies us. We all drink the same waters, and this water converts into blood in our veins. It runs like the rivers in our veins, just like the rivers on Mother Earth. We have a day for the earth, and the earth symbolizes the woman, also our mountains, our nature. And it's one earth that, for all of us, it's our mother. The mother that provides with our food, provides with our water, our medicine. It gives us a place to be, not only for us, for the animals, the trees, for everything, and so on. So this is how we go with the calendar. We have other days for gratitude or for whatever need we may have. We also have another calendar that has 365 days. It's called the Hub, and this is present in the pyramids of Chichen Itza in Mexico. That pyramid has 4 stars on each side of 91 steps each. So if we multiply the 91 by 4, it's 364 days plus 1 that is like the crown at the top. This calendar of Hub calendar is the one used in agriculture, mainly in agriculture, connect us to the earth and to the cosmic forces. In this calendar are the solstices, the equinoxes, the seasons of the year, the moon, the phases of the moon. And this is very important in agriculture to know when to plant, when to harvest. For instance, for medicinal plants, they are harvested in a full moon because that's when they have the full strength. They said if you picked up a medicinal plant in any time you want to, and without asking her or telling the plant what you want it for, it would be very weak in its content. It's also, the moon is when a child is born, the mother has gone through 9 full moons, and then you wait for the day when the child is born. So it's a connection to everything. We have Ishimche, one of our sacred sites here in Guatemala. There are 7 mounts, and they are connected to the Pleiades. There are other places that in other countries that connect to the Orion and other stars. How we connect to Earth also, other forms, it's like when the farmer is preparing the land for the plantation, they give the children candies and they send them to the field to play. So the earth receives the sweetness and the joy of the children bring. So that's one way of preparing the earth. And then they come the planting. And they also, if you see when they do ceremonies and they are going to move the fire, you blow before you take the stick. And that is a connection with the air, with the fire. Or when you are cooking, maybe waiting for you're going to have a feast, you have many people coming in for dinner. And so you bless the food, and then the food will be enough for everybody. And then we have another calendar, and they all are based in these 20 days. The other calendar is the Choltun, that we call the calendar of long count, because it has a duration of 5,200 years. And this is the era that we have just entered. Out of the 5,200 years in length, we are just beginning to. And this is the era of love, oneness, and unity. And we see how the world is, there's so much turbulence in this day. There is fear, there is violence, and so on. But, and we say, but we are in the time of love. But that's what we are here for. We are not here for money. We are here for love. And so this is it's like the dark forces or the old ways are fighting for, fear of the new, of what is coming, fear of letting go. And then the news, but they work for, it's a business. So we just go with what our heart tells, and don't be afraid. It's like surfing. And this is, if we are here together, the virus didn't stop us from coming together, so it's a time for creativity. we say, oh, the times are so bad and so, but then that's for us, but not for nature. Nature, they show us a revival, the animals happier, the plants coming back. I mean, there was life in nature, and that is teaching us that they don't need us. You know, they can do without us, but we need them. We need the earth. That's why we have to take care of Mother Earth. And we have a prophecy that says, together we will see the place where we have come from. And the prophecy says, we are the one of yesterday, we are the ones of today, and we will be the ones of tomorrow. So thank you. I don't hear you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. It was such a wonderful explanation of the Mayan culture and the wisdom there. And in such a simple words, you have expressed such a great thought process. Thank you very much. We really appreciate that very much. So,
Thank you.
and we appreciate your presence here all the way from Guatemala. And
I'm just learning this new technology also.
Yeah, we really appreciate. That was such a wonderful thing that after reading only 2 books out of that 1,000 behind you, you could manage the technology. It is great. So I would like to check with is Basil around? Basil Ugorji? Has he joined us?
Not yet, sir. He hasn't joined us.
He hasn't joined us. Okay. So let us go back to Vijay Swami. Are you okay? No, it looks like he's also not on line. So, in the interest of the time, may I request Professor Gauri Mahulikar to present her thoughts to all of us?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the kind words in introduction, and thank you, Soft Power, for this opportunity. Being a Sanskrit student all through my life, I don't say professor, I am a student still. So I would like to appeal to everybody here, in the Vedic language. Shrunuvantu Vishve Amritasya Putraha and Ano Bhadra Kratavo Yantu Vishwataha. Listen, you all who are the sons of children of immortality, and let noble thoughts come to us from all the directions. Now, when we are celebrating Mother Earth, this is a celebration of Mother Earth, I'm reminded of Bhumi Sukta, from which our chair quoted, Mata Bhumihi Putroham Prithivyaha. So that comes in the Atharva Veda, 12th Kanda for Sukta, which is Prithivi Sukta or Bhumi Sukta. And I think during the independence period, before the independence period, it was praised as Matrubhumi Sukta. So I would go with that initially, and then would come to the wildlife, which I want to focus more. So Prithvi, which is Prathanat Prithvi, which is widespread, it is Aditi because it is boundless. She is called Jagataha Pratishtha. She is the Pratishtha, she is the substratum of all the movable things. So that includes not only the bipeds, the human beings, the mankind, but also the quadrupeds. And that is where, all the Vedic seers have always praised and prayed for Shanno Dvipade, Shan Chatushpade. So let there be welfare for the bipeds as well as the quadrupeds. And this Prithvi, it is said that let the hills, the mountains, the snowy peaks, the rivers, the forest, and the animals and the beasts and the beings, let them all be happy and let them all be pleasant for us. Syona naha bhavantu. Syona sukhakaraha. So let them all be happy, giving happiness to us. And then they say that this Prithvi, she smells of herbs because of Aranya. She smells of herbs, and the Vedic seer says, Tena asman surabhihi kruno. With that fragrance, render that fragrance to us and make us also fragrant with the herbal fragrance. There is a beautiful sukta to Aranyani in Rigveda, and the seer asks her, "Oh Aranyani, oh lady," she is a lady, right? And a forest deity, "Are you not afraid? You are so far away from the city life, from the buzz of the world. Are you not afraid? But you will not be, because you are equipped with and you are full of the chirping of the birds and all the croaking of the frogs and all the wild roars of the wild beasts, the animals and all. So you have company with you." So this is the life, the Vedic seers always deified all the natural phenomena. As Elizabeth Bagini just rightly pointed out, the indigenous people were the nature worshippers. The Rigvedic seers also were nature worshippers. We have the Pancha Mahabhutas, Prithvi, Up, Tej, Vayu, and Akasha, the earth, the waters, the fire element, the wind, and the sky. So these are the 5 elements which are deified. The basic deities are the gods. The godhood as such has started from that only. So with that, I'll come to the birds, the beasts, and all these things. Most of the Vedic gods, they are compared to mainly the Vrishabha, as the Trishur brothers, in the Namami Gange. What a beautiful start for this program. And as he rightly pointed out, Vrishabha, the Raswara, the Rishabha. So it has come from Vrishabha. It's a sign of virility. It's a sign of prowess. And all the Vedic deities, especially Indra, Agni, Vayu, etc., they are called Vrishabha, or they are compared with the intoxicated elephants. Elephant, Dana, Namrugo, Varunaha. So that is what they say, Dana, Mrugo, Navarana. Hari Om.
Yes, madam.
There is some sound here. Some other sound.
Madam Elizabeth, can you mute yourself, please?
Am I okay now?
Yes, you're fine.
Okay. And then there is the sukta praising Indra, saying Mrugona bhimaha kucharo girishtaha. So the donkeys, the cattle, the horses, the tigers, camels, elephants, and the birds like the cock, the pigeon, eagle, hawk, even vulture, and reptiles like the snakes and crocodile. Everybody is taken into consideration. There is a right for coexistence on this Mother Earth, because after all, she is Jagataha Pratishtha. She is the Pratishtha for all the moving beings, whether wild or mild. And therefore, when we say how these animals are related to the Vedic deities have their mounts, the Vahanas, in the form of these birds and animals. For example, the Vedic deity Ushas, the early dawn, is associated with the red cattle, Gomati or Ashwavati. Surya is associated with the yellow horses. Ashwina are born from the horse form of Surya. They themselves have the name Ashwa in them. Then Rudra is called Pashupati, who is a prototype of the Puranic Shiva, who is also associated with Nandi. Agni is associated with the goat. The Ganga, Namami Gange, we started. Ganga has a crocodile for her Vahana. And it has been said, that we have to learn so many things from these animals. And who is the best animal? Mahisham Mriganam Sheno Gridranam. In the 9th mandal of the Rigveda, the bison is the most valiant of all the animals, and hawk is of the wild birds. So Shenaha Gridranam. We do have the Shena Chiti in the sacrificial, the ritualistic tradition also. We have the Shena Chiti or Garuda Chiti, the fire altar made in the form of a bird. And it is believed that the bird will take you because the beak of the bird is towards the east and he will take the Yajamana to the heavenly world. Now, we know we go for a forest walk and safari and all that, we are asked to keep quiet. Why? Because the birds get afraid. They are frightened by loud sounds. We have the same thing in the Rigveda, the first mandala. Swanaduta bibhyuhu patatrinaha. The birds get frightened by loud sounds. Why? Because they themselves chirp so sweetly. And their chirping is compared with Samagana of the Brahmins. So they are like Samaga. And people are advised to, stay connected, stay together in groups. Hauso yatha ganam. As Hausa, the swans, always, they flock together. We say birds of the same feather flock together. But as the Hausa always stay in groups, similarly, people should stay in groups. That is what it says. And cattle, of course, is the most important because they are wealth. Gavo, bhagaha. And they are invoked to grant us strength by their milk and all the milk products and give us luster. Ashriram krunuta supratikam, says Rigveda. And it is said that the house where you hear the bellowing of the cows, that is the most prosperous of all the abodes. So the Vedic seers praising the cows like this is very, very phenomenal. From Vedas, we come to Puranas, the Sanskriti, the Sanatana Dharma is the same. The tradition remains the same in a different form, in a more more flavor of human-animal coexistence we find in the Puranas, as the Vishnu's avatars could be connected with the birds and the beasts, right from fish, the Matsya avatar, the Kurma avatar, the Varaha avatar, Nrisimha avatar. So all these are connected with the birds and animals. Then the Shashti Devi is also connected with a bird. Then Devi is Mahishasura Mardini, goddess Durga, and Ganesha riding a mouse, Skanda riding a peacock, Vishnu an eagle, Yama a bison, and Kama, Madana, the Cupid, god of love. He has parrot as his vehicle. So they all speak of coexistence. Again, another thing in the Smritis we find is Bhuta Yajna. The Panchamaha Yajnas are praised for every Grihastha. Amongst that is one is Bhuta Yajna, offering something for the beings. So some flour, some sugar, crystals of sugar for ants near the roots of the tree, or some go grass is there, kakabali is there. So Bhuta Yajna is very, very important, and it is one of the 5 basic rituals to be done by a householder. Now, when we come to the animals, we have the variety, Jarayuja producing young living beings like mammals. Then Andaja, the oviparous like birds. Then Ayonija, they are not born of womb like worms, etc. Then Jalaja, they are waterborne like fish. Svedaja, they are born from excretion like the vermines. Then Kambuja, born of shell. And we all know the Panchajanya Shankha, which is a Kambuja. He Kambuja Shankasura was there. Krishna killed him and got that Panchajanya. Upanishads also praise the folk literature, and they talk about the Pashu Vidya and the Pakshi Vidya and the language. The entire Panchatantra is the animation we have. They speak in the human tongue. Now monkeys formed Rama's army, the entire Ramayana. Monkeys formed the army, and later on one of the monkeys, Hanuman, got a deification, a godhood. Frogs in the Manduka Sutta we have in the Rigveda. Frogs are associated with rains and magical powers. Now, when we talk about the 12 Rashis, the zodiac signs, they have the names of the Mesha, Vrishabha, Karika, Makara, Vrishchika, Meena, so all the birds and the beasts. As Trishur brothers, this Sri Krishna rightly pointed out, the Rishabha and the Panchama Kokila, they are also associated. So living in harmony with the surroundings is the way of life in our Sanatana Dharma. And it is said, that how you learn some lessons from animals. I'll just conclude within 3 minutes, sir. Just give me 3 minutes. So, Varam Parvata Durgeshu Bhrantam Vanacharais Saha Na Murkha Jana Samparkaha Surendra Bhavaneshu Api. This is Niti Shataka of Bhartrihari says, it's better to stay, coexist with the wild animals in the forest and on the mountains rather than spend our time with foolish people in good palaces. So animals are better than the foolish people. And an animal like donkey, what does it teach us? We have Trini Shikshecha Gardabhar. We can learn 3 things from Gardabha. And what are they? It is basically the Sthita Prajnatva, carrying load without complaining. Then not minding the Shita and Ushna, and always Santushta, always happy. So these are the 3 things we have to learn from a donkey, and 4 things from a cock. Shikshe Chatvari Kukkutat. And they are like getting up early in the morning, Prataruthanam, Yuddham, battle, fight, cockfights are very famous. Samvibhagam cha bandhushu, sharing with your kith and kin, your people, and swayamакрамya bhuktancha, earning your own food. Don't depend upon anybody for that. From a lion, what we can learn? Simhavalokana. A simha, a lion, when he turns his back silently, this is Simhavalokana. Whatever you do, you plan silently, wait for the right time, focus on the task. And even from very, insignificant insects like the bees, you have to learn many things. You can collect bit by bit the good vachanas, the sukti, sudhamrita, from small or big text like Pushpebhyaha iva Shatpadaha. And we have in Kautilya Arthashastra like the sanctuaries, the reserved forest for elephants, for deer. We have one in Sarnath, as we all know. Then in Rajatarangini of Kallana, the 10th century, 11th century work on the history of Kashmir, there was a king called Lalitaditya, and he had prohibited fishing in the ponds. When I was in US last year, there were some ponds and fishing was prohibited. So there are, taking care of the animals, birds, fishes, everybody, so that we have a coexistence in ourselves. Then today being 2nd October, Gandhi Jayanti and Lal Bahadur Shastri Jayanti, I am reminded of Ahimsa, and it is said, Ahimsa Prathamam Pushpam. Ahimsa is the first flower to be offered at the feet, lotus feet of Vishnu, and Sarva Bhuta Daya Pushpam, Kshama Pushpam, Visheshataha. That is how the Subhashita goes. And then they say, I'll just end with one Laukika Nyaya. It is called Vana Vyaghra Nyaya. What does it mean? We can't imagine of a forest without tigers. Huh? Without tigers, there is no forest. And where would be the tigers then? Without deer to hunt for them, for their food, there won't be tigers. So deer have to be there. But how will there be deers if there are no forests? If there are no vanas and upavanas? And therefore, wise people should plant trees. So that is the ecological chain, it's like a cycle. And therefore, we take care of each other. Parasparam bhavayantaha shreyah paramavapsyatha. You help others to help your own selves. So that's how I wanted to say. I wanted to start with the word Srishti Sambhrama, basically, because being a Sanskrit student, that too a Nirukta student. So Sambhrama, the word is, like very funny. It is some prefix and Brahma is the root. So it is something like a flurry, a flutter, some confusion, or Brahma is to rotate, revolve around something, But there is one other meaning of Sambhrama, and that is respect. For example, there is a vachana called Grahamupagate Sambhrama Vidhihi. When the guests come to your home, you have to offer them respectfully, with reverence. So Sambhrama could also mean respect. Sambhrama could also mean confusion. So Srishti Sambhrama, to start with this word, when we are celebrating Mother Earth, Srishti Sambhrama, we are really confused. We don't know. And therefore, we have to take the other meaning to respect, give our respect to Mother Earth and glorify her and glorify this wild, World Wildlife Week as well. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity. I think I have finished within my time. Hari Om. Thank you.
धन्यवादः प्राध्यापक गौरी महोदयः अतीव सुन्दर समर्पक विश्लेषणं धन्यवादः. Because of the time, may I request Miss Becky Big-Canoe from Canada to present her thoughts to all of us. It was wonderful, Dr. Gauri.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please, Becky, go ahead.
Okay, thank
so nice
you.
to see you.
It's so wonderful to be here with all of you this morning. Very, very grateful for this opportunity to be with you. What are we at? Almost 9 a.m. in Canada. It's the glorify of trees time of year now. The maples and all of the other deciduous trees are turning all kinds of beautiful colors. The moon of falling leaves, full moon of falling leaves. So I was thinking about what will I talk about today with this wonderful topic about our Mother Earth. And it occurs to me that this is the time of year where we will have just completed our Monoman harvest, which is also known as wild rice. And our lakes throughout our territories, like we're the people of the Great Lakes region. The Anishinaabe are the people of the Great Lakes region because in our stories of creation and migration in Turtle Island, we live upon Turtle Island. Our Anishinaabe people went from the east coast of Turtle Island and inland along the St. Lawrence River. And we were following what we called a megas shell. It was a dome-shaped shell. And it flew through the air and it preceded our journey. And it was telling us that we were to continue to go west until we came to the place where food grows on the water. And we discovered the Monoman. And to us, it's a wondrous seed because it grows in the water. And when the Anishinaabe people were free to roam the land of the Great Lakes given to us by the Creator, we were people of the canoe, people of the wild rice. So we knew the waters very intimately and we traveled that way. That was our highways throughout our territories. And everywhere we went, there was this wondrous seed that would grow upon the water. And when we harvest it, we'd have food to last us all through the harsh winter. So that was one of the things that we had lost when colonialism came along and it put us on reserved lands. So we were cut off from that knowledge of how to harvest and store and how to prepare that food. And we've been reclaiming that in recent years. And I think about when a lake is resplendent with the Monoman, it also is abundant with bird life, the migratory bird life and the more local birds. And then also it feeds all of the varieties of fish that inhabit our lakes. And then again, it would be a food chain that would be including all of the rodent type animals like the beaver, muskrat, what are a few more, the otter. These creatures all live along the shoreline because food is abundant. And so the monomen is like the center of a great circle of life, and our medicines. If all of you don't mind, I'd like to. I've had the pleasure of having my elder here for the week, and it just so happens here she is as well. And out of protocol, we hope that nothing we say offends or is contrary to what we've been taught by our elders. But what we try to do is convey our truth as respectfully as possible. So if I can, I'd like to introduce her and give her the platform to speak for a few minutes as well. Her name is Pim Austen. It means wind and water woman. And if you don't mind, we have the opportunity of having her with us.
Hi, I do not speak publicly a lot of times, but I go around, open up the conscience, open up the reality to what creation is about. He says so that people understand that what we are being portrayed is not real, that we were brought here in love, to live together in love and harmony. And he says that everything will be all right. I happen to speak to the spirit world. I go where the spirit sends me to bring truth to everyone. I talk to all walks of life. I especially talk to the waters, the lands. I pay a lot of homage. Every year I go across our Turtle Island and I say prayers for Turtle Island, the people, so that they may awaken. Long time ago, like still now we have 13 moons. And I still follow the 13 moons as my ancestors did. When I do my prayers, I do them with the fire and the drum. When you guys were talking, I says I beat the drum just so the resonance of everything that we were saying, he says, rang true to the universe. And all that we were portraying, that you are portraying in your Zoom in, rings true and clear and is heard at a level, in the spiritual level. I am sure is that many of you heard the call out to awaken. It says in love and harmony. So continue doing the good work, and I love you. Love is the key to all that we endure and to make change, positive change for everybody.
How?
Okay. And I love you.
Thank you for listening. Yes, so what we find, like we are all in the process of reclaiming our language and culture and our relationships to the land. And so we find that it's very important for us to include in our teachings our little children. And one of the things I'm seeing, because the disruption that COVID has had in life, something amazing has happened where our school systems are having to shift and change, and a lot of people are choosing to keep their kids at home and pursue their education at home. And what we found in that process of colonialism is, at first we were taken to residential schools, our grandparents, where the dominant religions tried to erase who these children were. And those that survived were generally taught to be ashamed of who they were, and they were cut off from the knowledge of how to live with the land. So we have teachers now emerging who are going to bring back those traditions, and they encompass so many things. But what we're finding is the most value is one of our most important teachings is called Seven Grandfather Teachings. So I'm going to recount those just now, and the animals that are associated with each of those. And these teachings are about how to be a good human being. Number one on that list is humility, and it's represented by the wolf. And because the wolf lives in a family configuration, each of us must know that humility in order not to try to dominate. The second is bravery, which we encourage in our children, and it's represented by the bear. And the bear is a very large and strong clan amongst our nation. And we believe that the bear also has the responsibility of finding medicines because he eats so closely to the earth, and also because he is roaming throughout, he's like a protection. He's a security force. The third of our grandfather teachings is called honesty, and it's represented up in our culture by the creature known as the Bigfoot, and we call him Zabe. And honesty helps keep right relationships among people, and that way an honest person can walk tall like the Zabe. The next teaching is called wisdom, and it's represented by the beaver. He uses his natural gift wisely for his survival. The beaver will alter his environment in a friendly and sustainable way for the benefit of his family, but it also benefits many other creatures as the beaver does his work. Turtle represents truth, which we call Debwewin. And he was here during the creation of the earth and offered his back to be our home. So we believe that our continent is on the back of a giant turtle. Finally, no, not finally, second to last, we have respect, which is represented by the buffalo. The buffalo will give every part of his being to sustain the human way of living because he respects the balance and needs of others. Finally, we have love, which we call Zegidawin, and it's represented by the eagle. He has the strength to carry all the teachings. So this is basic because within each of these teachings is many, many more lessons. So we are trying to bring our societies back around to respecting each of these animals, learning how to live with them, revive our clan system because they were based on these animals, to regain having a healthy society and balance with our environment. So I really appreciate this chance to share this with you. I hope I've had enough to say. Professor, what's your name? Rashwant Atak, thank you for all the wonderful things you said. Mitakayo Iwasan. We're all related.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Becky. You know, whenever I meet the Native American elders or African elders, I always remember my grandparents. They were telling the stories because most of the philosophy is very well told in the form of stories. And when you start the stories with the animal stories, all the children have full attention toward the story. We learn a lot from the animals and we learn a lot from these stories. So the whole philosophy of ancient traditions is always in terms of a learning process from a known to an unknown, or for a knowledgeable person to a less knowledgeable person. And many a times our animals are more knowledgeable than the human beings, and we learn from them. Your stories were so wonderful, Becky. We loved it, and we are so happy to have you all the way from Canada. And most of our audience is from India. They will love your stories and they will love to, and we'll all will pray that a day will come that you all will get back your land, culture, language, and everything and create a dent in the world with your philosophy. That's our prayers for you. So thank you very much. We are here. I have seen a very nice note from our organizer, Vijaya Lakshmi Vijay Kumar. We have close to 100 participants in this discussion, and we have such a wonderful panel here. Our sister Elizabeth Arauzo, Becky is there, Professor Gauri Mahulikar is there. We have so many people. So if you have any question based on the discussion which is going on, please write your questions here and we'll try to ask these questions to the appropriate person, and we'll try to get the input on your question. So Vijay Swamiji, are you online? Vijayji, it looks like the Arunachal Pradesh had serious challenge of the bandwidth and the internet. Dr. Abapulu, are you there?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Would
I'm
you like to
searching.
continue? Would you like to
Yes, sir.
say
I'll try.
something? Yeah,
Yes,
please.
yes. I'll try my best. I'll try my best. I'm searching
No,
for
please,
network
please,
and
please. We want you to say and
yes. So
communicate
I
with
have
us. Yeah,
already
please.
sent this PPT in the
Okay.
WhatsApp to the co-host. So
Okay.
probably they will share.
Yeah, the PPT is
Okay.
ready. Can you please share the presentation?
Perfect. Go ahead, Dr. Abapulu. Your presentation is on.
Okay. So yes. I may not know how long I will be able to connect. So right now I'm just, you can see outside my college or say outside my this institute, because of the poor connectivity and poor network. I'm searching the network itself in the nature. So anyway, uh, uh, I was saying that basically I will be talking about the particular tribal community who lives very close to the mother nature, to the natural environment, and then wildlife. Next, please. Yes, so I have already talked about this. There are n number of studies that have shown that there's a connection, and this is the particular place from where this Idumishmi people belongs. Okay, this also I have done where the Idumishmi people lives. So basically, there's a belief, religious belief, or we have a belief that basically Idumishmi people are generally animist and no idol worship, believe in but spirit. There's a spirit, some powerful spirit out there who controls Mother Nature, who controls wildlife, who controls natural environment, and we call them Khinu. And there are many folktales, folklore in our Idumishmi that relates us from our natural environment and as well as to the wildlife. Next, please. So the presence of several spirit in terms of farm, house, forest, and mountains, we do believe that all these things have their own separate. For forest, they have separate. There is a separate spirit, and for mountains, there is a separate spirit. And Idu people follow code of conduct and behavior so that they get the blessing and success in farming, hunting, and other resource activity. And if people fail to satisfy the spirit, harvest may fail, and may hunt may can also be unsuccessful. So that is why they always keep a code of conduct to keep happy to the all those spirit. Next. So this is just a picture of that our ego or our priest, who is considered to be the main, say, dictionary of our all oral tradition, our oral knowledge. Next. So our relation with forest, like many other tribes of Arunachal Pradesh, as well as from all over the world, we are largely dependent on forest in our day-to-day life, like for food, shelter, medicine. So I won't go into detail. Next. However, that there's a, we do believe that, like I said, there's a presence of forest spirit. in Idumishmi, in generally, we do not cut large trees unless it is used for some house construction or for agriculture purpose. We don't just recklessly cut the trees because we believe that there's a spirit called Asha. Asha is the spirit who looks after large trees and deep forests. And cutting trees may annoy spirits. And if once you annoy the spirit, it may it can be it can get you lots of negative impact in your personal life, to your family as well. So that is why in earlier days, now also in the deep villages, they do this practice. After cutting the trees, big or large trees, people cover the stumps with mud and trees to prevent ashas from seeing it. So that kind of belief we still have in our culture. Next. Similarly, uh, uh, we also believe that there is a spirit for animals as well. Who is the owner of the animal? All the animals, all large animal, wild animals. That spirit is called Golo. So though hunting is a big part of Idumishmi life, they do hunting, but Idumishmi people regard hunting as a serious activity, and many restrictions and taboos are observed during hunting and trapping. And this is the mass deer hunting. Is an age-old tradition. In the past, Idu used to sold these mass ports to Tibet across the border. Hunting is a very difficult, and hunters may spend 25 to 30 days sometimes in search of such mass deer. Next, please. The point I want to focus is the like I said, we follow certain restriction and taboos. So when an animal is hunted by Idumishmi people, the hunter performs a ritual. It pays back to the spirit who is the owner of this animal. They pay for the animal he hunted to a spirit called Golo. So payment in the form of meat and metal. Usually what they do is that once they hunt the, say, deer, bear, any wild animals, they will pay back to the Golo, and they will say that I have killed your animal, so I'm repaying you in terms of metal and some parts of the that animal you kill. So telling that in the next time, don't, again give me more animals and don't harm me and don't harm my family. I will follow all the rituals, all the taboos, what is right there for me. So this kind of that taboos and relations, or say restrictions, we follow while hunting. Next. So similarly, there are certain animals as well as birds which are forbidden to hunt in Idumishmi. Like, give you the example, killing of tiger is prohibited. We Idumishmi people consider tiger as brother. And killing tiger is one of the most serious crime in our society. If someone kill the tiger, then not only the hunter and his family, but whole village has to go to the certain restrictions. They have to observe 5 to 10 days of say restrictions. They cannot go for other huntings. They cannot go for say any kind of ceremony, death ceremony, those things. There are n number of restrictions that has to follow once you kill the tiger. And it is say it is, they consider it, killing a tiger is like killing a man, killing a human being, equivalent to killing a human being. So there is a that is why we prohibited killing of tiger, because we consider them as brother. Similarly, we also do not hunt hulok gibbons. And large animal killing demands various personal sacrifice, usually for at least 5 days. And so once we kill bear, deer, or any kind of wild animals, we go for the restrictions for the 5 days. And in these 5 days, there are certain restrictions that one has to follow. And you cannot again go back to the forest, and you cannot started killing again until and unless you have completed those 5 days. And this this taboos function as, and therefore this ganas means taboos basically. Therefore this taboos can function as an intricate conservation device. Next. So when the hunters returns home, there are 3 kinds of restriction. Their food, and there are certain food he cannot eat, and abstinence from the sex, and the place. There are certain places he cannot go for 5 days. For 5 days he cannot go to the certain places because he has hunted a wild animal. Next. So this is the the hunters, Idumishmi hunters with his trophies. What they do is that once they hunt, they keep the skull in their houses. They decorate it they decorate there in the house. So it is a pride for them. It is a trophy for them. So this is one of the picture from our one of the village. Next. These are some picture I wanted to show. On the one hand, you can say the old person, following old traditional way of hunting with bows and arrows. On the other side, you'll see a young hunter with his live cartridges. Next. And these are some animals which is very much there in our Mishmi Hills or Mishmi areas. Next. So similarly, in whether it's related to hunting, whether it is related to forest, for everything, like from birth ceremony, death ceremony, marriage ceremony, everywhere we always dependent on this mother nature. And there are certain say forest product which becomes very necessary to for certain ceremonies, like for birth ceremony. On the delivery of the child, we collect the elephant grass. What we call is apoton. We collect that elephant girl, and we believe that that elephant grass will protect the little baby from evil spirit and welfare of the child. And what we do is that we cut that elephant grass, and we will keep in all the 4 walls of the room where newborn baby sleeps. So of course, and for do that we call the priest to perform a ritual ceremony. Next. So this is the elephant grass which I was talking about, and this is, you can see in the below in the image where in the room we have kept the elephant grass in the walls. Next. So okay, just I by mistake I put animation. I think animation. Just do say this one. So basically, I will not take. That's fine. Even our dresses. I just wanted to say, even our dresses are inspired by the nature. The women's they weave their dress. By looking at the hands, feet, moving ants, bamboo stalk, or bird's feather, and many such things. Our motifs, our designs, dress are this inspired by these things. Next. These are the dresses just I wanted to show. Next. The Idumishmi people. Next. These are again it's in all this tribal culture that we are for our say to build or to make house, we are totally depend on the say forest. Next. So again in that ceremony also there are certain forest product without which we cannot perform the death ceremony. Next. So say just I'm going very fast because I don't know where the network may disconnect anytime. So that is why that this concept of this restriction or say taboos can be infused into a conservation action plan. So and it is like important that indigenous and the local knowledge is and will be a critical part of protecting the plants biodiversity and the overall health of ecosystem. Therefore what I feel is that priority should be conservation with respect for human rights, or say with respect to protecting the tribal culture of the people who are living there and who are managing this area. So if we can uh, convert or rethink of this conservation plan or say modeling, then of course there can be a another successful story, or there can be another picture from where we can save our mother earth, or from where we can save our forest environment and then your wildlife. So but however, having said that, from my community, I'll just end up with the 2 points that challenge that is being faced by my community. Next. Challenges which are we are facing right now in my community is that that conversion into different religion. There are young hunters, youth hunters. They are converting themselves into the different religions. For say Christianity, they are converting into the Christianity just because they don't want to follow the restrictions. They don't want to follow the taboos. So if some concerned person or elder person counters that particular hunter, that why you are not following this our taboos, our restrictions, you are annoying the spirit, then they simply say that we are Christian, we are from different religion, and we don't in our religion we don't consider these taboos and restrictions. So that now in recently this kind of things are developing in our um, community, in our Mishmi area. And another thing is that mushrooming of dams. Mushrooming of dams is becoming a challenge for our community, for whole society, not only for the community's existence in relation to the forest, in relation to the wildlife, but it has lots of say other impact. It will have other impact on our day-to-day life. Because next I will show you one example why I'm saying this particular point. See, this is a simple, I have sketched this Dibang Valley district where Idi people live. So here you can see this is the water river basin, and this within a single river basin, 17 dams are proposed, and 17 dams are proposed, and among them 2 are the largest dams of the country. One is around 3,000 megawatt, another one is 4,000 megawatt. So you can imagine that once these 17 dams are constructed in this single river basin, then it can you cannot imagine it can cause such kind of damage to the whole environment, whole mother earth, you say, or wildlife, forest ecology. So it will bring lots of ecological imbalance. And in the right side, I've just simply given you the one say example that from this Italing power project, which is about 4,000 megawatt, they are going to construct. There, as per the report, they will cut down 2,80,677 trees just for a constructing a dam. So this, from this act, or say this kind of concept of development, I don't think so this will really helpful, or this will really help us to protect our environment. On the other hand, we are dependent on the environment, and we talk about let's protect our environment, let's balance the ecological balance. But on the other hand, look at the developmental concept of development plan of our say government, our policy maker. See, in a way, they are jeopardizing our whole natural ecosystem. So that is where I feel that even not only us but the government, they have to rethink about this this imprudent kind of concept of development. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Abapulu. It was such a wonderful knowledge you shared, how to maintain the biodiversity and how to maintain the environment. And you brought 2 beautiful topics which are very important to all the ancient traditions around the world. And that's why I've always pointed it out. The ancient traditions are 2000 years old. The reason is 2000 years before, one person came. Before 2000 years, the whole world was believers. They believed in one spirit, they believed in one God, or some existence of some greater power. But suddenly the world was divided into 2 parts, believers and non-believers. And you brought out that challenge which Idu Mishimis and Arunachali people are facing about conversion. That was the challenge faced by Native Americans, that was the challenge faced by Africans, that was the challenge faced by pagans, everywhere all over the world. This challenge has to be addressed, and then the environmental, developmental, redefining the development. We need to learn a lot from the ancient traditions, and do not follow exactly the model which has been totally a failure. We can see the failure of development models which were developed by the Western world. But unless the ancient traditions are stronger to show how the new model will be having challenges there. But we really appreciate your contribution to this wonderful session, Dr. Abapulu. Wonderful. It
Thank you,
was
sir.
great to hear your things. May I request Dr. Nandini, because we were trying to get Dr. Vijay Swami from Rewatch, but unfortunately the bandwidth and the internet is creating problem. Is Dr. Nandini around?
Yes, sir.
Would you like to go ahead and represent Rewatch, Vijay Swami and whatever yourself too? Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Dr. Nandini is associated with Rewatch and she's doing a lot of research work in collaboration with Rewatch, and she's a wonderful person. Thank you, Dr. Nandini, for 11th hour challenge we had.
Namaste. Thank you all. I'm here on behalf of Vijay Swamiji. I'm the mouth of Rewatch. I'm here in Detroit, North America right now. But I wish to say the words, whatever Vijay Swamiji wish to say in this platform. Wisdom of ancients. In the early periods of human history, environment strongly determined the lives and activities of the people. They were very much close to Mother Earth, forest, and natural resources. Historical documents and ancient Indian texts like Arthashastra, Vedas, Manusmriti, Brahma Samhita, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Rajatarangini, Rukshayurveda reflected the concepts of forest ecology and conservation in a sustainable manner. The Indus Valley civilization is one of the best examples where several characteristics of the city planning and social structure showed environmental awareness. Today, humanity is facing challenges of eroding natural resources and declining ecosystems services due to the multitude of threats created by unprecedented growth and consumerism leading to unplanned intrusions by man. That's what you have heard from Dr. Abbapulu as one of the example. However, look at the other side. We realize that indigenous knowledge system protects and promotes environment. Indigenous people of the world own, occupy, use more than 22% of the global land area. Numbering of about 500 million indigenous people speaking the world's almost 7,000 languages, they represent greater part of the world's cultural diversity and so the biodiversity also. Today, we find that their ancient wisdom, as we call it now, traditional knowledge transferred from generation to generations since ages, is vital for sustainability of natural resources, including forest, water, and the soil. We, the people today, just inherited it. Wisdom keepers of this traditional knowledge system were the individual scientists themselves. Dr. Yashwant Pathak ji is here. One day, while discussing with Yashwant ji about this traditional knowledge system, Vijay Swamiji asked a question: where is the scientific proof to the traditional knowledge system? And his answer was an eye-opening. Who are you to question this knowledge system that is based on thousands of years experiences of millions of people, isn't it? And really had nothing to say. Fortunately, we find that even the United Nations stands ready to support all initiatives aimed at realizing the rights and aspirations of indigenous people. They have fixed SDGs for mankind. These are being brought to the communities by the various RCEs, and these activities have to be taken to a larger country like India by participation of more stakeholders and educational institutions. For example, RCE East Arunachal Pradesh, headquartered at Rewatch, has been promoting various activities to the communities.
Recently, during the COVID-19 days, the RCA organized a prayer called We Heard You Mother Earth, and many local communities participated in it. Ancient wisdom of the indigenous people or the ethnic communities give louder and louder messages to all of us that we being of human society is related to the well-being of natural system. Humans are a part of nature and not above the nature. Here I remember few lines of a poem. When your blood in vein returns to the sea and the earth in your bones return to the ground, perhaps then you will remember that this land does not belong to you. It is you who belong to this land. This message is very clear to all of us in this modern age. The ethnic communities hold on to this wisdom still today. That's why the concept of Grus, Vatika, or sacred Grus, Tapovana of India are rich in biodiversity and ecological wealth. I think all of you remember the story of Vaishnavis of Rajasthan. And one of the elders said, if one has to lose head or life for saving a tree, know that the bargain is inexpensive. What a commitment and love for the nature around. I am in Northeast India and particularly in Arunachal Pradesh, living with local ethnic communities for more than 3.5 decades. They taught me great lessons as an environmentalist that no university can teach. These religious traditions, tribal traditions, livelihood traditions, taboo traditions are so much scientific and appealing in the modern context. If you count the main tribes and the subgroups, so if you can count, there are more than 400 ethnic communities in Northeast India, Eastern Himalaya, which is known as one of the active biodiversity hotspots of the world. The credit of this surviving hotspot goes to their ancient wisdom in developing these living traditions. Water harvesting and sustainable use of land and resource of Apathanis, it is one of the tribes living in Arunachal Pradesh, has acknowledged by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site. This recognition is to their ancient wisdom and age-old living practices. Sacred groves of Meghalaya, community conservation of uh, Texas, of Tawang, Arunachal Pradesh, rhododendrons of Sikkim, bamboos of Tripura, one-horned rhinos of Assam, and orchids of Manipur are some of the best examples of local communities living practices in maintaining their relations with Mother Earth. We have sufficiently.
Sorry to interrupt you, Nandini ji. We are sorry, we are running out of time. Would you like to make some last remarks?
Sure, definitely. Thank you. The Research Institute of World Ancient Traditions, Culture and Heritage stands for this. It facilitates and promotes local intelligentsia to do this in their own fashion, but with a scientific approach. It is a time that government should take this as an important agenda in state and national planning. Then alone, the scientific wisdom could not be nurtured and carried forward to the next generation, so that the only home of ours in this universe could be kept alive. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nandini ji. I would like to close the session with deep gratitude to Professor Yashwant Pathak. He founded the International Center for Cultural Studies way back in 1997, and it's been doing wonderful work in promoting its vision of universal well-being, which is based on age-old Indian wisdom. He started out the Institute for Indo-African Studies, but now includes the native communities of Africa, Australasia, Europe, North America, South America, and Southeast Asia. And in this session, we saw how beautifully he brought together members of this panel from across the world. Thank you so much, Professor Pathak, and to all the panelists. Our deep respect for the wisdom that you are preserving. And we will now go on to our next session, which is artists for wildlife and nature, artists who've spent their life in painting wildlife. And their art is not just artistic, but also very scientific, in that it projects with exactness what is true in real life. And we have as our curator for a very special virtual exhibition, which we will be inaugurating later in the session. We would like to invite Prasad Natarajanji. He is the founder of Artists for Wildlife and Nature, which he founded in 2017. It is a collective whose mission is to raise awareness about wildlife, environmental preservation, and artistic skills in portrayal of nature. And it is one of only probably 2 organizations in India which promotes and exhibits artwork relating to wildlife and nature. He will be moderating this session. Over to you, Prasadji. And thank you so much for curating the exhibition and bringing together all the wonderful artists.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity to Center for Soft Power and Heritage for creating this wonderful nature festival. Can you hear me, everyone?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Okay. It's a great nature festival to be part of. So we have 4 brilliant artists who will be talking in the panel today. First, we have Sandeeta Karu. She's from India. So I'd like to introduce her. So Sangeeta is from Bangalore, Karnataka, and she aspires to capture wilderness on paper and canvas, and draw attention to the fascinating nature world that surrounds us. So she's one of the co-illustrator of a big coffee table book project called Hummingbirds. And she's also curated and designed the Holomati Nature Information Center. So she'll be talking first. Then we have Sophia. Sophia is Singapore-based. She's Singapore-based wildlife artist and conservation biologist. So she's a growth leader of Creature Conserve, winner of the Human Impact category in David Shepherd Wildlife Artist of the Year 2019 contest, jury member of the Golden Turtle 2020 Connect, and member of the Youth for Wildlife Conservation Network. So she'll be talking next. And then we have Martin Mcguire. He's one of the world's leading wildlife artists, American-born artist, and she's a naturalist and conservationist and a great painter. So her breathtaking acrylic paintings make you feel as if you are actually viewing the animal outside your tent or from the window. Her artworks are in private and corporate collections all over the world. So, and she's appeared on television and major magazines like Africa Geography, African Birds and Birding, National Wildlife Federation magazine, to name just a few of them. And lastly, Julie Askew would be talking about her conservation work and her art journey. So Julie travels and explores nature extensively, sketching and painting the natural wonders of a planet. Her philosophy is to paint only what she has observed herself. So she paints only what she has observed on her own, and she actually carries a lot of field sketchbooks. And from these field sketchbooks, she creates her studio paintings. She's been involved in a conservation project called Lifeline, which she'll be presenting later. So these are the 4 panel artists who will be talking, who will be discussing about art and their life journey. And so I think Sangeeta has joined in and Sophia has joined in. So so I think Sangeeta, over to you. Like you can present your presentation. Looking forward to hearing your talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prasad, for the introduction. And it's lovely to be here as part of the Srishti Sambhrama Nature Festival. And thank you so much to the whole team at BNMIT, Srishti Sambhrama, and Soft Power magazine as well. It's an honor to be presenting alongside other well-known artists of around the world. And it's a pleasure to be here. I'll just open my presentation. Yeah, 1 second. Can all of you see my presentation?
Yes, Sangeeta, we can.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Well, yes, I've been working as a wildlife illustrator, wildlife artist for more than a decade now, about 15 years or so, since 2005 when I graduated from college. And I think for anybody to be a wildlife or a nature illustrator, you to fall head over heels in love with nature. And I'm sure everyone will agree with me on that. For me, it is all about, it was a lot to do with responsibility. It is a whole new responsibility to show nature, to depict nature. It's a sense of gratitude and a sense of pride to be able to show wildlife to people, to take it up, to capture something from the field and show it up close to the eye of the viewer. And something that I really cherish, and I've gone on to illustrate many species, which I will be showing to you. It is also, I think I've been really fortunate that I've been influenced by nature at a very young age. It's been ingrained in me, the respect for nature, and I have been taught to play in the wild and observe as much as possible. My uncle always put all of us cousins into vehicles and took us to the forest and helped us experience wilderness all around us. My father, who's an entomologist, he would show us the beauty of our backyard, all the little things, the spiders, the insects, the ants and bees, which was his social insects were his subjects of study. And we were grateful enough to learn about them at a very young age. Though it was not it wasn't forced upon us ever. It was a very gradual understanding that we developed and a respect that we developed with nature, which has been the most amazing thing of my life. Also, because of the influence of my father and my uncle, I think my brother as well turned into a wildlife filmmaker who is really renowned and well known today in India. And that has further inspired me all along my journey as a wildlife artist as well. I think, as you see, a canvas of birds is what inspired me, or I would say, like, got me into observing nature in a bigger sense. I was always introduced to it as a child, yes, but I think it was when I turned into an avid bird watcher myself, that's when I started noticing a lot more and started trying to record that on my canvas, trying to represent that on my canvas. When you're trying to look at birds, it's not just the colorful feathers or their characters itself. It's a lot more. You start observing the trees that they sit on, the fruits that they feed on, the flowers that they nectar from, the insects that they eat, where they roost, all their other behaviors. It's a whole world that you get introduced to. It might be just a little bird after all, but the amount of influence that it has on your life, or it has had on my life, has been amazing. And I think it was because of this love for birds that got me to travel all over the world looking for them. And it was through this travel, I think, I started keeping a nature sketchbook as well. Also, with regard to birds, there's this amazing artist that I used to follow once I started pursuing this field of art, Robert Bateman. He had once said that if someone becomes a bird watcher, the world is in better hands. And I really think so too, because it opens you up to a whole new perspective, and you immerse yourself in nature, that you start observing the entirety. You start falling in love with the environment as a whole and not just small elements of it. This is how my nature journal started off, very crude and rough sketches, but soon it transformed into something more, more detailed, more colorful, more observations went into my sketchbooks. I used to not only draw birds, but trees, flowers, seeds, and lizards or frogs, snakes, moths. Moths are the best, they pose for you. And it really gave me a sense of the vastness or the diversity that is around nature. Through these nature journaling that I started doing myself, I thought that's something that should be shared with a wider audience. And I started conducting these workshops for children to get them to really look at things, to feel for things, to observe them, and start recording them in their own journals as well, like I used to. Shilpa and I, a friend, a colleague, we started doing these workshops together. Green Scraps is what we call it. And we've been doing it for 10 years now, and it has been an amazing journey to be able to share our passion, our love for nature with them. This was the very first mural that I worked on, and this was pretty much my step into wildlife art in 2005, wherein I started. This was a big mural, and I think initially I started doing it for the sheer joy of it, and sure, to be able to represent nature, what I see around me. But I didn't know there was much more to it at that point of time. Even when I joined art college, I really didn't know that I'd be becoming a nature artist at the end of it. I had no clue, but things progressed in that way. I was fortunate enough to land an amazing, brilliant project on hummingbirds with Gorgas Science Foundation in the US. And though I had never seen the birds, just trying to illustrate them, the details, it was a different world altogether. I think this is what instilled that fine detail and that importance that I need to, and also realize that I want to become a wildlife artist and pursue this career in a bigger sense. We started, because I already loved birds, I think it was much more easier for me to capture them in my illustrations. We started looking into the behaviors, we started looking at their forms. We had to be scientifically accurate at the same time. We had to be able to show how aesthetic and beautiful a painting can be, and how the birds, the iridescence of the birds, and how the light falls on them, and how the postures, we were able to go deep into it and try to represent them on our canvases. I started illustrating sunbirds after my hummingbird project, and these are in the old world. Hummingbirds are not there in India; they're only in the new world, the hummingbirds. Whereas someday I hope that I could work on a book on sunbirds as well, and a home country bird that can be represented. I also collaborated with many organizations, wildlife organizations, to come up with books on wildlife, storybooks and guidebooks, and many games and many little poster projects and information material that would help in the awareness, bringing about awareness about the wildlife that surrounds us. These butterflies, they're all around us. This is in a small city of Bangalore, and we have so much diversity. Through art, I was able to show diversity as well. And every illustration that I made had a scientific research behind it, and I was able to show what nectar plants these butterflies feed on, what host plants that they lay their eggs on, what caterpillars are are used to moving around on their host plants itself. So we try to show all that in the paintings, and I continue to do that even to this day. Try to be good with my research, and a whole lot of my time goes into research before I get on to illustrating any wildlife species. Moths are quite difficult to see because they are mostly out in the night. But if you do get to see them at any point of time, I think this is how gorgeous they are. And I really wish people would take time to notice the diversity that's just around us. This is amongst the most difficult paintings so far, I would say. But it had a lot went into creating this work of art. I had gone to the zoos to make a lot of sketches of this the monitor lizard, and I also had an opportunity to go to BNHS in Bombay, wherein I got to see the dead specimen and understand the scaling on this reptile. I was able to figure out what the scaling is like on the back, on the lip of the reptile, on the face, on the tail. So all those inputs helped me develop this painting into what it is today. This has been one of my most favorite projects, I would say, a recent project. It was Holemati Nature Information Center. I was asked to assign this task to put together a Nature Information Center from scratch. I pulled along a team of amazing nature enthusiast artists who were also passionate about nature to work on this project together. Behind us is a mural that was hand painted. It's like a three-dimensional mural, and rest of the place we mixed digital art and even hand-drawn sketches to showcase many elements in the Nature Center. The best part about the Nature Information Center is the wide audience that it took our project to. It was a little building in the corner in one of the forest areas, Hills in Karnataka, and the number of people, the school children, the localites who came and were awed by their own fauna and flora that surrounds them was incredible. I think these are the kind of projects that I enjoy involving myself in now, to be able to take my work to different audience, and not just the audience in where they put up my artwork in a gallery, or this is much more meaningful, a lot more purposeful, I feel. And so I'm really looking forward to creating more work like this, where I can reach out to people with my art. And at the end of it, if I could put in a sense of curiosity or any kind of love for the natural world during this process, that would be the most satisfactory element of being a nature artist. So hoping that many of you get influenced by nature and live alongside them. Thank you.
Hello. Yeah, thank you, Sangeeta, for your wonderful presentation. Few of the breathtaking works we have seen, especially the monitor lizard. like it is also part of the virtual show that will be opening
Yeah.
later. So without further delay, I think we'll move to Sophia. I think if you're ready with your presentation, Sophia, you're on next. Over to you.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Prasad, for introduction. So my name is Sofia Shukhova. I'm a wildlife artist and a conservationist, meaning that I'm spending around 50% of my time working as a trained conservationist for various NGOs or doing consultancy for them. And the rest of my time, I'm creating wildlife art and talking about various conservation issues using my artistic skills. Also, recently I became Creature Conserve Network growth leader. And if you are not familiar with this organization, I really recommend you to look into them because their aim is to bring artists and conservationists together and inspire them to work together to find new creative ways to save species from extinction and protect various ecosystems. So I have quite an unconventional journey to where I am now. I did my undergraduate studies in architecture. And once I graduated, I realized that actually probably architecture is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. So I started to do a lot of freelance work. And in the same time, I started to paint, and I painted mostly animals. So I was spending a lot of time in zoo and various parks, and also drawing and paintings from photos and videos. And this is at this point of time in my life, I realized that I'm actually interested in animal conservation, and I want to do more for animals. So I took a short course about conservation and species recovery. And after that, started to volunteer for different NGOs across Southeast Asia. Once I volunteered enough, I finally got a job in conservation. But during all this journey, I was continuing creating wildlife art, exhibiting, also conducting various events, workshops, etc., just to raise awareness about conservation issues that animals are facing and threats that animals are facing. In terms of how my art evolved during the time, I started with very figurative, I would say old school classic art. So as you can see on this painting, I was mostly using watercolors and was creating portraits of the animals on a white background. So these are nice artworks that showing the beauty of wildlife, but probably do not really have a strong message behind it. So with the time, my works evolved and changed to something more conceptual and contemporary. So for instance, this artwork that I created a couple of years ago called Shark Fins, and is basically about shark fin trade. So as you can see, it's not really portraying sharks themselves, but rather talking about the threat and conservation issues. This particular artwork won in the Human Impact category of Wildlife Artist of the Year back in 2019. Another example of, again, an artwork which is not really portraying an animal itself, but rather talking about a threat that this animal is facing is this one. It's called red ivory. So I'm sure most of you heard about elephant ivory trade. And you know that elephants are being killed just because of the ivory. But I'm pretty sure less of you know about red ivory. And red ivory is basically produced from the head casks of helmeted hornbills, which are critically endangered species. And again, they need to be killed in order to get this product from them. So I feel really privileged in terms of that I'm working in conservation myself. So I have an access to all this information and knowledge about less known, less covered conservation issues. And this is what I'm trying to talk about using my artworks. So another artwork that I recently created is this one. Is about bear paws. Bears are traded for many different parts and reasons. Bear's paws are just one of these products. And for this piece was inspired by the information that I actually read in a book and also in a couple of other publications and media reports about how literally thousands of bear paws are illegally smuggled every year from Russia to China. So as you can see, each of my artwork has a science behind it or information behind it. And this is what's called art informed by science approach. Another project which I'm currently working on is about the Asian songbird trade. So this project is financially supported by Creature Conserve and involves several NGOs working on tackling the Asian songbird trade. So for this particular project, I traveled to Indonesia and Malaysia and met with conservationists working for 3 different NGOs called Flight, Planet Indonesia, and Traffic. And all the artworks that I created based on this traveling and observing that is happening in the field are actually portraying different stages of the trade. So for instance, this work is talking about how the birds are being kept on the market, often with a lot of animal concerns, crowded in a cage, spreading disease to each other. So this particular artwork is called How Many is Too Many, and questioning how many birds you need to put in one cages so that they will start die. So I'm planning to do an exhibition about the Asian songbird trade, hopefully next year, and raise awareness about this issue. So here is my website, also account for Facebook and Instagram, my email if you're interested in collaborations or want to ask any questions directly, as well as Creature Conserve website, which I think very useful if you're an artist or conservationist and looking for collaborations or funding. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Sophia, for this very unique presentation, because I've seen many artists portray, the classical style, which is realistic work, but very few artists, representing wildlife art in this form. So, very informative and interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah. Next, we have Jan Martin Mcguire. Her works are really hyper-realistic, I should say, completely different from Sophia's work. So if Jan is ready, she can take over. Jan, hello.
Jan, you'll have to unmute yourself, please.
Yeah, unmute. I think you need to unmute yourself. Yeah.
All right, sorry guys. Well, my husband James coming in to help me there, because I'm sort of, a little less of an IT person. Anyway, I want to thank you all for inviting me to be part of this panel, particularly Prasad. It's good to see your face. I'm feeling a little funny because I'm watching these 2 great artists ahead of me doing these great slideshow programs. Fortunately, I'm sort of in the middle of a big project, a conservation project, so I wasn't able to put much together, but I hope that I can share some things with you. It's interesting to me that this entire panel is of women. I've been a professional artist for 40 years, and when I started out, there was hardly any women. So to see these tremendous women at work in wildlife and conservation is just wonderful for me. One of your former presenters talked about Robert Bateman. The way that I started in wildlife art actually was in early childhood. I was what in America we call tomboys. I was out climbing trees, catching snakes, whatever. And when it was snowy and cold, I lived in Colorado. I would be inside drawing. as time went on, I went through high school and then I went to a university. And unfortunately, or fortunately, the entire curriculum was modern abstract art. And while I actually learned some about design and technique, and Robert Bateman actually talks about the same thing, in the end, my heart was still in wildlife and nature. I continued to depict it on my own. I went through 3 years of college, and I decided and discovered two things. One was to be a wildlife artist. You didn't have to have a degree, you know, as long as you're a fine artist. I mean, teaching or commercial art or whatever, you would need a degree. The second thing is that my professors weren't making a living with their art, and thus they were doing teaching. So I actually left university after 3 years and started out on my own. I started originally in pencil, pen and ink, etchings, but I came to realize it wasn't speaking from my heart about the variety and color and textures of nature. So I took up acrylic painting. That is what I prefer. I tried watercolors, I tried oils. So I admire you guys that do watercolor. I am so not good about planning things ahead of time. And oil painting to me is too slow. I have this immediate response of what I'm wanting to do. And I dry my paint fast with a hairdryer. With acrylic paint, one of the things that I'm capable of doing is capturing textures and lighting. Those are the two hallmarks of my work. So I have a couple paintings. Sorry, again, not a presentation, and hopefully you can see them well. Let me know if you can't. This is a barbet found in Tanzania, and it's on a termite mound, so you see all of this incredible texture. This is the kind of thing that I love to depict. This little painting here of a kudu, graded kudu, shows lighting, the backlighting that I like to do with my work, and the light against dark. So I moved, well, let me back up. For 20 years, my husband, James, and I, and by the way, my husband is a terrific videographer and photographer. You want to check out our YouTube page, which is Mcguire and Hines Studios on YouTube. We've been leading groups to Africa for 20 years. And sorry, dogs are noisy here. And we finally decided a couple of years ago, you know, we love Africa. We're not getting any younger, so we're going to move. And we did. We sold our house, we sold our cars, we sold our furniture, and now we're living in Africa. It's my heart. I love it. I do still, interestingly enough, I have a huge commission series of North American birds. I'm in the United States, all I can sell is African, come to Africa, and what I'm selling is North American. But it's all right. I love everything about all wildlife. So now that we're living here, it's great because, you know, I have more of a constant exposure to the lighting and the textures and everything about nature that I want to depict. Talking a bit about conservation, what I will say is, in my opinion, wildlife artists absolutely have a duty to talk about conservation and to try to raise awareness for conservation. We absolutely have that duty as much as we can do. Whether it's from, well, I've seen one of your previous presenters working with children and nature museums, anything and everything to get people to understand our next generation. They're the ones who's going to be making a lot of decisions about conservation. For me, what I do donate artwork. Over the years, hundreds of thousands of dollars per year, millions in total for 40 years. I have no idea how much. They go to different groups that auction them off or whatever it takes. We also do work in conservation with boots on the ground. We did it in North America. We did what they call, well, they're basically a borehole in the desert that water comes up, and it's for bighorn sheep and, you know, other desert wildlife. We've done the most conservation work in Africa. always have. I've worked on several huge conservation projects with rhinos. They're very special to me as well as elephants, but these two big projects, we did one in Zambia, where we worked with a group in the very far north in Zambia in Lungwa Park, which is actually, this project is run with Frankfurt Zoological Society. But it also works with, believe it or not, hunters around the area, these what they call wildlife management areas, and they help protect poachers from getting into the park. We raised about $90,000 for that project. The original purpose of it was to create boreholes for the rangers, so they weren't having to get drinking water out of the rivers, where they could get poisoned either accidentally with cholera or on purpose from poachers. So we managed to raise enough money for all of the ranger stations, as well as had enough extra that we bought equipment and, night vision goggles and different things like that. All the way to small projects that we've worked with local communities, and particularly, talking about bird conservation. So I feel very fortunate that I've been able to live my life dream, to be here actually working on conservation projects. Next, you have another, she's a fellow artist that lives in England, but she and I actually worked on different conservation projects. Part of the things we do is bring artists to Africa for conservation projects. And Julie came here. We spent a couple of years, I wish, a couple of weeks studying wildlife. And then we, mostly elephants, because it was an elephant conservation project. We were able to go back and have several major showings around the United States, selling our artwork and raising money for an elephant orphanage. As someone mentioned earlier about elephants, even many Chinese, who are the ones that mostly consume wildlife products, they don't seem to understand that you have to kill the elephant for the ivory. They seem to think that they're teeth that fall out just like humans. And in fact, that's not true. The entire face is cut off and the tusk taken out. So to try to get people to understand, whether they're consumers, whether they're people that live in the country, or just people around the world that will donate, has become sort of my passion. I'm known as a wildlife artist, conservationist, and naturalist. I absolutely believe that artists, wildlife artists, have to experience what they paint. There's something about it that gets into your senses when you're out in the field, and then it comes out at the end of your brush or, clay or whatever you're working with. You absorb the sounds, the smells, everything. And it's funny because I give quite a few workshops. I can usually tell if somebody's worked from a zoo animal or something that they haven't actually seen in the wild and experienced it. So that's sort of my advice for young artists. It's difficult for me to give a whole lot of other advice for young artists because the world has changed a lot and the art community's changed so much since when I got started. Now there's so much on the internet and seriously, I have galleries around the world and we sell ourselves through our website, but a lot of our sales are from YouTube and other social media and websites. So it's a different world than when I started because there were a lot of wildlife art shows and things in America, which just don't exist now. So it's a new field. All I can give as advice for young artists is to study your subject, study other artists like Robert Bateman, who I learned of very early in my career, and now we're still great friends. I can call him on the phone and talk to him. Study other artists, study wildlife, and looking at the conservation problems that are facing the world. So I think, we've got a bit of time. Oh, no, we don't. This says 10 minutes. Okay, so I guess maybe I'll go backwards and talk a bit about my techniques. Maybe that'll help some artists. Now he's telling me, no, I don't have any time. Sorry.
You had 10 minutes, you used 10 minutes.
Okay, all right, great. It's nice to see you all and thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jan, for this
Thank you.
informative talk. Yes. Nice to see you in person.
You too. You too. Thank you.
So glad Julie could join on time. Like I'm very happy. Like Julie, you're on mute. I think you need to. Yes.
Hello,
So,
Professor. Nice to see you. And
yes,
hi,
yes.
Jan and the other guys.
Hey,
Jan. Hi, Jan.
Yay.
Yeah. Had trouble getting internet, but managed to get it in the end. So
Yeah, glad you could make it. If you before you just start off, like I've given you an introduction already. I can play the video you had shared with me, like just before you start talking.
yeah, it's just a short video just showing some of my latest work.
Yes, 1 second. Just a moment.
I guess I have to stay because there's questions.
For anyone watching, there's also some other videos on there, some super videos on. If you go to Lifeline Media Group, you'll come across our other videos as well.
Yeah, I've downloaded the 3 videos you had shared with me. I'm just going to share them. 1 second. So you're able to watch my screen, right?
Yep.
So I'll just play your video now.
So to click once more.
Ma'am, can I play that video?
Yes, Kotiji, please play. Prasad, you can stop sharing screen and we'll play the video.
Yeah, 1 second. I'm just. The volume isn't working. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, so we have it. We'll play it for you.
Yeah, I think that would be better.
So you have to stop sharing screen then.
I'll do that. Yeah, 1 second. Can you hear it now?
No, it's not playing.
1 second. 1 second. I'll stop. So yeah, I think you're able to play it now, no? I've stopped sharing. So I think, Julie, you can start your presentation. Like you can talk about your work and yeah.
Thank you. So that's just a short video of some of my latest pieces, which I call the Lifeline series. Lifeline because nature needs a lifeline, and maybe art can give that. And Lifeline because the natural links link the life together. So hence the title Lifeline. A little bit about me and where I come from with all of this. My training is in scientific illustration. So that's zoological, medical, and botanical illustration, into the nitty gritty, the anatomy and all the insides of stuff and how does everything fit together. And for me, that was really important to learn about. But rather than do scientific illustration, I decided to do wildlife art anyway, which has always been my passion. And the illustration being a way of learning about the anatomy and the scientific side of things. But the training in that was in pure watercolor and everything observation from life, only from life, no photos at all. And that was a fantastic training to do. So measured drawings, microscope work, all the works. But having left university, I didn't want to do scientific illustration because most of it is about drawing dead things. And I'm too interested in life to draw dead things all the time. So wildlife art was the direction for me. And watercolors didn't quite work for that. Again, Robert Bateman's name comes up. And I found his book as an 18-year-old in the local bookshop. I didn't know you could do art and wildlife as a career, as a livelihood. And seeing that book changed my life really and my direction. And as Jan said, it's a privilege to know him just that little bit now and actually have exhibited with him is a huge privilege. And Jan, it's a privilege to exhibit with you as well. So he's been a life changer for an awful lot of artists. So can one person make a difference? Oh yes, definitely. And I think the message from him is to give to younger people coming through and encourage them for art and conservation and always try and help. I know Jan does that a lot as well. I've come across artists who don't, and that's a little sad. There are no secrets. We're all in this puddle together. Anyway, so I headed off doing my fine art career, which has gone really well, over 20 years now. I headed for America and the market over there because that's where everything happens in wildlife art in general. In the UK, there isn't much of a market anymore. It died out in the 80s. So America's the place. I've been very fortunate to be with the Society of Animal Artists and get to know people like Jan and all the other great artists over there. And I got into the gallery that I really wanted to. My ambition since being young was to get into trail side, and I got in with them and was really happy and everything. And then I stopped and I thought, okay, what am I doing? Why am I doing paintings of wildlife? What do I achieve with this? Is it all about me? It needs to be about more than that, more than just going to shows. So I decided to change the direction of the wildlife art I was doing. By now I'm working in acrylics. And I decided to create this Lifeline series. And what I depict are the conservation stories that are going on out there, the natural links between species highlighting conservation issues. And that's become a real focus for me to try and be a link between the conservation, the natural scientists and the public. Public generally don't sit reading scientific papers. They watch things on the television and stuff, but they don't read the science. So more and more now, I'm trying to be a bit of a science communicator, if you like, the link between science and the public, to give them some insight as to what's happening out there. And my latest project is Antarctic science and polar science. And I'm working with the British Antarctic Survey and the Capot Institute for the Environment, looking at polar science and ice cores and all sorts of exciting stuff, and depicting that and the ecology of the areas, the things that live on and in ice, and depict that science for the public, but also being involved in some of their research as well. So it's very exciting. For students coming through, one thing that's often asked is working from photographs. Is that a good idea? I think it's a good idea when you're really, really, really much a beginner. But the best you can do is to do work from life. Have sketchbooks. Draw anything and everything. It doesn't have to be wildlife. It's all fantastic practice, whatever it is that you're drawing. So just draw. You can't draw too much. You need to hone your observation skills and shading and toning. And then you can use those as references, as photographs should only ever be references. Many artists and more experienced artists can look at someone else's work and you can see when it's copied from a photograph. It's a bit like a dancer. If a dancer plays only to records, only to canned music, there's something missing in their dance. They're not experiencing the music the same way. If a dancer dances to live music, there's interaction with the other musicians, and the full experience comes through in their expression. And I think the same is very much true of artists. If you need to experience the whole thing, and also from a technical point of view, you need to understand the subject as a 3D subject, not as a 2D flat photograph. If all you have of reference is a photograph, you're going to produce the photograph because you have nothing else to add to it. And I think that's really, really important. So get out there and sketch. Many people say, well, I can't get out to wildlife. I haven't got anything around me. Everybody's got insects in the garden, outside, even on the street. Dogs, cats, birds are everywhere. There's no excuses. There's always possibilities. And it's so
lots of flowers as well. Like there are a lot of flowers and everybody has a flowering plant.
Exactly. Beautiful flowers. Anything. Look at a leaf. Look how light shines through a leaf. There's so much you can do with the really simple stuff. So it doesn't have to be the big animals of Africa and America and India, the tigers or anything. It doesn't have to be that. Remember the small stuff as well. It's exquisite and there's so much there. And I think that's really, really important. Am I okay for time?
Yes, we have another 6 minutes.
Oh, brilliant. What else was I going to say? Yeah, so for new artists coming through, practice is the key. Practice as much as you can. Just keep on doing it. Look at other people's art. These days you can do it online. When I was coming through, there was no internet, so it was books, as many books as I could get hold of. I had stacks of art books, because one of the best ways of learning is to look at other people's art. Not always good art. You learn as much from bad art as you do from good art. And it's all a matter of opinion anyway. So you have to decide what you like, look at a painting and think, well, why do I like it? What is it about that painting that works for me? And see if you can incorporate that in your own work. And I think that's really important. And again, if something doesn't work, think, oh gosh, I have to remember not to do that. Look at how other artists do lighting, how they do composition. Lighting especially is a really important thing. And again, you don't want to copy that from a photograph. You want to experience it. You can make little 3D models of something you're going to paint. They don't have to be very good. But if you make a little 3D model and light it from different directions and experiment and actually see it, and then use that as your reference. There are so many ways of building your reference pile so that the photographs literally become just part of that reference. And I think that's really important for people coming through. yeah, so I think practice is the key, and online, find out, link with other people, with other artists. I think we've got quite a community now online, and I think that's really important to get involved with. Don't be frightened. People are very giving and very generous and willing to help. At least most of them are, anyway, I think. And artists like Jan, they're great at helping and encouraging and nurturing. And again, back to Robert Bateman, hugely giving artist, and you can learn a lot. You can't go too wrong if you follow his lead, I think. Oh, and the other thing I was going to say, the Lifeline paintings, I developed that into a project called Lifeline Project. And you can find it online. We've got the lifelineart.org. And we do educational programs for needy schools all over the world. We've got over 70 schools now in Africa, South America, Madagascar. And we do art-based eco-education projects for them. So art can be used very much to nurture young people and bring them through into conservation and wildlife and understanding of our natural world. Because very often that gets lost. As we leave the ground, as we get taller, as we get older, so we seem to lose contact with the earth. And it's good to keep that contact there and keep kids interested in the nature. So that's part of our project that we run, as well as expeditions and all sorts of exciting things. At least when COVID is over, we'll get back to it then.
So if you're done, Julie, we could go to the questionnaire. We would get additional time on that.
Yes, exactly. Go for it.
So I have prepared few questions. Like we haven't received many questions from the audience.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Could we inaugurate the exhibition so that our audiences can view it? We don't want them to miss that very important.
Fine, we can do that. So I'm
we're all also very excited about it. We can get back to the discussion after.
Sure. I'm ready with the exhibition. Like I'm right in the entrance, so I can share the screen, right? Yeah.
We have with us our founder Hari Kiran Vadlamani ji. Hari.
Namaste.
We would like to introduce him to all our esteemed panelists.
Sure.
Yeah. So he's Hari. He's also an artist at heart, I think.
Aspiring.
Yeah.
Ayaka. Thank you.
Yeah, please inaugurate it.
Go ahead.
So I can share my screen, right?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Are you able to see the screen, everyone?
Yes, we can see it.
Can you make it full screen, Prasad, if it's possible?
1 second, let me see.
I think it's already full screen.
1 second. The menu, I need to figure out how this works. I think it's already full screen. I'm
Sure, please go ahead.
Yeah. There, press that hamburger there, where your mouse is.
Yeah. So I think it's already full screen. We'll figure it out. Like not waste much time on this. So I think with this we'll declare the exhibition open. We worked a lot, like with short span. We put up these artworks, and a lot of work has gone into it. So let's enter the exhibition. We can actually take the guided tour, I think, which is better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have the list of artists. 1 second, let me go back. So we have the list of artists, then we have the show note, which talks about the show and what it is about and why we have put up this exhibition. So it talks about all that. So I think now I'm able to enter full screen, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, now it's better. So I'll start the tour. You can see all the displayed artworks. They are totally, 21 artists from around the world. They are displaying their work here, and totally 43 artworks from various genres. We've tried to put it across, we've tried to display. And this exhibition is a mixed thing of masterclass artists. Like, they're really senior artists who have won several awards. They're professional artists, and there are few amateur artists as well. We've tried to bring in the mixture of all these artists together. So we'll start the tour. I think the system would take us through, I think. So first we have Carl's work, like 3 of his works we've displayed to begin with. So this is one of my favorite works. Like, I really love owls. So these are owls from Canada and US. So he's painted it in single panel. Another one that made to the cover. And then we have Chirag, who's from India. Like, his works displayed next to Carl's work. 2 of his works. Then we have Dao Wang's work. He's from Vietnam. With beautiful works, like very different from what we see usually. Like, we see elephants and tigers and lions, but his works are completely different. So native, again, he works on native species, which is something I really like. And then we have Tony Prinham. Like, he's from Australia. Like, his works. So he again works on a lot of native species, and then one of the senior artists from India, Eric Ramanujan, like, one of his work. This is made from enamel paint. Like, I can't believe. So this one won this year's Artist of the Year award in AWN show, Shakti Prasad's work. And then for Jan, we have dedicated a complete wall for her 3 works. So Secreted Bird from Africa, then painted dogs from Africa, then the bongo deer. So then we have one of the hyper-realistic artists, Kazi Nazir. He works on acrylics. It's sometimes it baffles me, like, how someone can do this kind of work in acrylic. So 3 of his works. And then we have Jonathan Pointer's work. Like, he's from UK. So both of these artists, their styles match a bit, and they've used a lot of browns and purple. So I put up a wall with mammals alone. So rattle, this is a honey badger, very rarely seen in the wild. So Eric's work again, like tigress and a cub. So then these 2 are my works, like spotted owlet. And then Oriental dwarf, one of the smallest kingfishers in India and the most colorful ones. So then again, Shakti Prasad's work, Grey Jungle Fowl. This is a pastel work. We have Meena Subramaniam's work, really a big panel. It talks about Western Ghats, and it's done in acrylic. Sangeeta's work, she had already presented this during a presentation. So Pachali, he's from Germany. He's one of the best illustrators I've seen online. Like, I have not seen his work in real, but one of the best. And Sangeeta's work again. Great hornbill. This is Shweta's work, Great Indian Hornbill, using pen and color pencil. And Meeta Dani's work, she's an Indian but now residing in Canada. So watercolor work of Indian Chinkara. Jai Kumar work of lion-tailed macaque, one of the endangered species. Meeta's work again, watercolor work. Again, Pachali's work, like he from Germany, Siberian eagle owl. Then we have Lenin's work, color pencil work, Great Indian Hornbill again. So Pachali's work, lesser kestrel. He's trying to portray the male and female and their feeding behavior. Lenin's work, again, a juvenile red wattle lapwing. Then we have two miniature works as well from Rachel and Wes. So we tried to bring in all the genres, like we put in two miniature works as well from them. So we have Hemalata's work. So she is one of the leading botanical artists from India. So her work. Then we have Helen's work. She is basically from China, now in New Zealand. So she does a lot of illustration work. Hemalata's work again. So Helen's work again. So both of them working on watercolor. So I've put both the artworks together. So that ends the tour, I think. Like it was a bit fast. So keeping the timeline and time limit and all that. So we've gone through it fast, but we'll be sharing the link. You can actually go through all the artworks, their titles, subject, and the scientific names, description, all that you can actually go through it. We'll be sharing the link. So I think I've done the tour. So can I stop sharing the screen now? Like,
Yes, Prasadji, you can, and you can go.
yeah, in case, yeah, yes, I can stop this. So that was the tour. I hope it was. I was given very short time, so any mistakes or any flaws are there, like kindly pardon me. Like, and this is the first time I'm curating this kind of show. I've done 8 shows inside India. I've curated them and I've put works, but this is the first time I'm doing it with the international artists. So any feedback?
Good job. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. Yeah.
Thank you. So any negative feedback as well, please let me know so I can correct myself. So I think we can move to the QA session since we've done.
Prasadji, before that, can we have Hariji speak a few words?
Yeah, sure.
Hariji, over to you.
Varsha, it's I'll pass. Thank you.
All right. Okay, Prasadji, then you can take over the Q&A session.
Yeah. So I actually had prepared few questions like on my own. So I would like to ask the panel of artists these questions, like because I feel these are very important questions that we need to let the audience know. So in case we're getting audience questions as well, since we're open for the Q&A, we can actually take in those questions as well. So my first question is to all the 4 panel artists, like, see, there are no courses on wildlife art, like any other art form. There are courses there, which are there in schools or institutes or organized, like many educational institutions. But on wildlife art, there are no courses. Like, so how does a beginner, like let's say I'm a beginner, I want to learn this art form. So how do I start doing that? I think Jan, Julie, and Sangeeta and Sophia, you can take turns to answer this. So this is my first question to the panel of artists.
Okay, so I had a bit of hard time hearing you. I think you were asking about online courses.
Yeah, not only online courses, like any courses, like no institute teaches wildlife art. So online courses also fall into that. So
I think there's a lot of online courses that are out there. We are doing a bit more, but to me, as we talked about, Prasad, the learning of the media is important, but as Julie said, it's all about practice. And the thing that I say is just get out and study it. So between what she said, and I'm sketching all the time, which trust me, she does. I spent many days with her in Africa. Sketching, learning observation skills. That really is actually, to me, more important than classes. So many classes are about, okay, here's my style, copy exactly what I do. Well, that has nothing to do with being an artist. I call it baking a cake. It's a recipe. Pick up this brush, pick up this paint, do this. That has nothing to do with who you are as an artist. So, you know, as other people have talked about, Robert Bateman, there's other artists, Carl Brenders, John Sari Lester. Why am I talking? Well, Carl's not dead, but neither's Bob. But there's lots of good art you can study. And then get out in nature and observe, whether, as Julie said, a leaf, an insect, a bird. Don't just paint something because you think it might. Sort of gone quiet. We're still here. Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you, Jan.
Maybe she off to Julie, see what she says.
Yeah, I think Julie, you can also.
Yeah, I mean, I agree totally with what Jan says there. It's about you and your art. It's not about a teacher. And the best learning you can do is doing it, and getting out there and practice, and study other artists. Like I said before, look at what you like and what you don't like and work out why. It's a very individual journey, and you need to be passionate about it. You need to burn from this to really get anywhere with it. If you just sit back, it doesn't do it itself. It's down to one person, and that's you. So just go for it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think if Sangeeta is online, like.
Well, after Jan and Julie have said that, it's pretty much the same thing. And I had pretty much like I could, when Jan talked about her college stories, I think I could relate to that. The 5 years that I did was mainly getting the skills of becoming an artist or trying to understand paint and color and practice every day in college. But then no one was there to really teach wildlife art or to talk to us about anatomy and the whole, how to capture wildlife from nature. So I think that part of it was mainly through influences that I've had from the art world. Meeting a few wildlife artists during my visit in the US was something that really opened my eyes up. Before that, I think the way I used to do art was completely different. Even now, I'm still a beginning learner. Like there's so much for me to learn. As Julie mentioned about light. Light is something that I haven't got the hang of yet. I know I need to put in my practice and figure that out. And as they all said, it's only practice that can help you. And I think if you're getting into wildlife art, trying to go out and understand nature, like, become a naturalist and try to know their behaviors, because once you look at the behaviors in the field, and that is what you'll know what you want to show in your paintings when you're trying to depict them. So yeah, the field, going out into the field is the key thing as well.
Thank you. Yeah. Sophia, you want to take this question?
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with all what was just mentioned. And even based on my experience, I studied architecture and conservation. So I never learned wildlife art in university or in higher education establishment. So it's all about the practice, and more you're practicing, better you become. Another thing that I think Julie mentioned it while giving advice to rising artists is the community is very important, and it actually can, in a sense, replace the university or some education program. So if you connect with right people, with different artists who are open to see your artworks in progress and giving you advice, that is the best thing you can do. Because the critic is helping so much. I myself sharing my artworks with other artists and listening to their feedbacks, and they do the same. And this helps a lot, because sometimes you are so stuck on your artwork and you might think it's totally bad or it's totally amazing. And other people might see it differently. And it's always great to have this feedback from other professionals before you show this artwork to the rest of the world.
So the second question, I think we already, most of you answered it, but I still want to ask, because I think this there is a culture right now, like many of the artists I see online or even offline, they work mainly with photographs. Like most of them haven't seen the species at all. Like still they work on those kind of species. So is this trend a good trend, or is it a good practice to do this kind of artworks? So I think Jan, you can answer.
I knew you were going to say that. I totally work from photographs, but they're based on my experience. They're photographs I've taken to remind me of my experience. Julie and I have a little bit different philosophy. Hers is fantastic. She sketches constantly, which I admire and think is great, and think it's a good thing to do. But for me, when I'm out in the wild and I'm experiencing nature, I know that my human mind is not capable of remembering every little aspect of it. So I'm absorbing it and photographing it. People say, okay, you just copy a photo. No, there's very rarely in one of my paintings that there's less than 10 photos. It's usually more like 50, but they're based again on my personal experience. Now I will say, I will admit, when I first started out, I fell into the trap of buying photographs from professional artists, photographers. Don't do that. There's a multitude of reasons not to do it, but the most is, as Julie and I have talked about, is that absorbing into yourself of what happened and how you feel and how you saw it. If you've never been to Africa or never been to India like me, you know, I have painted things I haven't seen in the wild, but I did a ton of research before I ever started. So that's what I, again, just keep going back to, is experiencing it yourself. But yes, I do use photography.
I think Julie, you already spoke about it, but still I want to hear.
Yeah, I can always elaborate. Actually, Jen, you're not so dissimilar to me in what your philosophy. My philosophy is that photos are a reference, just as you say, they're a tool. And you never use just one. I think the danger of a lot of people coming through is they find a photograph, a single photograph that they like, and then they copy it. That's the danger. And that's not art. You may as well just put the photograph on the wall. It doesn't achieve anything. But using, like a jigsaw puzzle, building your composition and your image and lighting and everything else together using different photos as reference is absolutely great way of doing things. I'm just a sketching nutcase, and I can't stop sketching. I love it. And for me, that's the core of what I do. But that doesn't mean that's what everybody has to do. Of course not. It's just my style. It's my way of doing things. But I agree, absolutely. It's fantastic to, photography is a great tool, but it should only ever be that, a tool. And that means using multitude of images. And they need to be your own, as Jan said, and as I said about the dancer, you need the whole experience. I think that's really important.
Can I say another thing, Prasad?
Yes, sure.
Again, I love that analogy of yours, Julie. What I really want to warn artists about is never copying photos off the internet. It's illegal. It's called copyright infringement. Do not do it. Now, I'll have a lot of photographs of something, and maybe the ear isn't turned just the direction I want. So I may go on Google and just look at what sort of the inside of an ear looks like. Absolutely do not copy from Google or books or anything else. It's completely illegal, besides the fact that it doesn't help you as an artist.
Very important point. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Sandeeta, you want to take this question?
So I think I remember both create one composition. But again, before that, what I also do is, if, for example, the monitor lizard that I was making a painting of, like, I would take a big newsprint sheet and charcoal pencil, and then look at a lot of images on the internet, and I just do sketches of them, just do anatomy sketches of it, try to understand how their anatomy is in different angles. And later, I figure out what angle that I want the monitor in. If I want the tongue out or the tongue in, the tail curved in a particular direction. It's all up to me about how I choose to depict it. And then, because of all those anatomy study sketches, it really helps when you're actually trying to figure out your final composition. Same thing with, again, going out in the field and knowing how a hornbill looks and what it does and what its behavior is. Trying to, if you want to show the tail fanned out, if you want to show a fig in its beak, or if you want to make it look in one particular direction, it's all up to you, the composition. You drive the composition, but yes, understanding how things look in the field and then doing a lot of anatomy sketches will really help you in your final artwork. Yeah.
Sophia.
Yeah, I probably will start answering this question, but saying that I do not think there is right way of using photos or not using photos. We are artists, not scientists, so we are totally free to choose to do whatever we want if we are satisfied with the results, if we are able to sell it, or it's just up to us to decide, I guess. And of course, having experience seeing animals in the wild and then creating artworks based on that, it's a totally different experience. And I believe that if you're creating artworks based on something you saw in real life, they will be more emotionally charged and will be able to have a bigger or larger impact. However, I do realize that not all of us is able to see all the species we want in the wild. Of course, as mentioned, there are plenty things that we can see in our backyard, but not everything. And especially if we're talking about endangered species, there are also a lot of concerns about it, even if we are able to go in their habitats and try to observe them. So how we do it ethically, how we do not disturb them even more. So I think in this case, using photos is totally fine. And I think what also was mentioned that another great medium to use as a reference is video. It's what I'm personally using sometimes because, again, of course, it's not a real life, but you can see the movement of an animal, you can see the behavior of an animal. So if I myself is not able to observe this particular species in the wild, I would sketch from the video instead of sketching from the photo.
Well, again, if you don't mind, I'll just pop in here with a thought. Artists, a lot of times wildlife artists, will go to zoos, which are fine, especially if you sketch from life. But you have to understand what zoos do to animals, particularly big cats. If you've seen a lion in the wild, they have this musculature because they're out, chasing prey. What a lion looks like in a zoo is completely different than what a lion looks like in Africa. So if you're working from zoo animals, you have to research it and understand the anatomy and what's underneath and what's different. Just interject that.
Yeah, can I just add on that?
Yes.
Build on that. Unless your aim is actually talk about animal welfare and of the animals in captivity, then I guess that would be your aim to portray it.
So I think we are on time, for out of times. So it was a wonderful panel discussion. We got a lot of time to take in a few questions as well. So if another 5 minutes we have for out of time. So I would request Ms. Vijay Lakshmi to speak a few words.
Sure.
Hari, would you like to say a few words, Hari? Hari? Hari, are you there? Anyway, I would like to say that the artwork is simply amazing. And I would also like to say that Prasad has done a fantastic job. He's very organized. And I mean, we were looking at all the mails he was sending out. And the way he went through arranging this was really commendable.
Thank you.
So, Hari, I mean, we look forward to, doing this quite often. I will allow, and so, I mean, I will allow Varsha to do the thanking, but I would like to say that we're really, really happy that, all of you have shared this fantastic art that you've all brought out. I mean, it's just now I saw somebody messaging and they said that, somebody in their house said, I don't believe this is art and it's more like a photograph. So, I mean, they said it just looks so real. The art is simply amazing. Varsha?
Yeah, thank you, Auntie. So with this, we come to the end of a wonderful session. Thank you so much to our most dynamic chair, Mr. Prasad Natarajan. You've brought together a wonderful panel and we thoroughly enjoyed the session. And this was the first time we decided to do an exhibition, and Prasadji has set it up so well, like you all saw. The link is also on our website, so please do make sure to go check it out and also spread the word about it.
Sir, I'll be sharing it, sharing the link with everyone, like all the artists who participated and on the social media as well. So, thank you for the link. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Prasadji. And thank you to the ladies of this evening, Sangeeta, Julie, Sophia, and Jan. You're all doing such a fantastic job educating us and roping all of us into conservation and wildlife. So we can't wait to do this all with you again. Thank you, Nandini ji, also for staying with us throughout. A gentle reminder to our audience regarding tomorrow's sessions. We have a session on wildlife photography, followed by a session on success stories of wildlife conservation. We hope to see you all here tomorrow. Thank you and namaste.
And we'll be inaugurating the wildlife photography exhibition tomorrow.
Yeah.
If I could say a few words, like I just have two. I think.
Sure, yeah. Yes, Prasad.
I'd like to thank the panel of artists. Like it was a very short notice that I gave to them. Like they were ready, and there were a lot of technical difficulties, and I understand a lot of personal commitments are there, and so they able to join in a short notice. And thank you for putting up a presentation as well. Like it was nice interacting with all the artists, and I would like to thank the artists who sent in their artworks as well on time. So it was really short notice. I just gave them 5 days time. So they sent in all the artworks online, and I would like to who supported this initiative. If not for their support, this wouldn't have been possible. Yeah, so I would like to thank them as well. And thank you again, Center for Soft Power and Heritage, for giving this platform. It's been a very tough year for artists, especially. So most of the shows have been cancelled, and no shows are happening. So virtual show is good as the real show. Like I'm happy for getting this opportunity.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
Well done.
So with that,
Namaskar and good night.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
Good day and good night.
Good night. Good day. Yeah, good night. Thank you.
Questions and answers.